Good morning to you. This is the AM show. It's now time for the news. President Akufo-Addo has warned he will not allow deputy ministers to benefit from disloyal actions taken against their substantive ministers. Rather, such appointees will be dismissed. He issued this warning while swearing into office Ms. Lariba Abu-Baidoo as the new Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, and Francisco Mensa as her deputy.
You have both been carefully chosen for your portfolios. Your educational and professional backgrounds, your life experiences and your characters have dictated these choices. An opportunity is being afforded to you to serve your country in an elevated capacity. Seize the opportunity with humility, but with determination, and perform, guided always by Almighty God. To the Deputy Minister, you must at all times exhibit a spirit of loyalty to your minister. Article 79, Clause 1 of the Constitution of the Republic provides that a deputy minister is appointed by the President in consultation with the minister and with the prior approval of Parliament to assist the minister in the performance of his or her functions. Your basic responsibility is thus to assist your minister in the performance of his or her functions. Loyalty to the minister is the fundamental premise for the success of your work. I will not countenance any acts of disloyalty or subversion of your minister, for I will take such acts as disloyalty to me personally and by inference, disloyalty to the state and party. A deputy who thinks that the route to advancement lies in their ability to subvert or undermine their minister will be sadly mistaken. You will not profit from that conduct in Akufo-Addo's presidency. On the contrary, you're likely to forfeit your office. I want you to work with your minister in all sincerity and transparency. That is the best guarantee of your individual success and of our collective success. Together, let us build that dignified, self-reliant, prosperous Ghana that successive generations of Ghanaian patriots and the founders of our free democratic nation have sought with their blood, sweat, and toil.
On her part, the new gender minister, Lariba Abu-Baidoo, promised to work hand in hand with her deputy to make the gender ministry an enviable one.
Excellency, I wish to thank you so much for the love and the wonderful gesture that you have shown me and my deputy. We are really grateful. And I want to assure you that we will work and bring out to speed as you made mention. We will collaborate with stakeholders and the Jubilee House to make you proud. Myself and my deputy are committed to make Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection as an enviable ministry.
Away from that, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has described the current NPP government as the best in Ghana's Fourth Republic. According to him, projects and policies instituted by the Akufo-Addo-led government are unmatched in the country's history. This is coming at a time where Ghana is in talks with the IMF for a $3 billion bailout. He was speaking at the party's Thanksgiving service held at its headquarters in Accra. There's more in the following report.
And sometimes we forget what we have done, and that we have to thank the God Almighty for how far He has brought us, notwithstanding the challenges we have faced. If you look at the record, and I want to remind you just a little bit about the record of the MPP in government, you will know that we have a lot to be thankful for. Since we have been in office over the last 6 years, and this is all based on the data, we have created more jobs than any other government in the history of the Fourth Republic. More jobs, teachers, nurses, security forces, civil service, the private sector, we have created more jobs than any other government in the Fourth Republic. And we have to thank God for that. There's more to do, no doubt. But our record puts us as #1 of any government in the Fourth Republic as far as job creation is concerned. We have built more roads than any other government in the Fourth Republic. And we have to be thankful to God for giving us the opportunity to do so. We have not built all the roads, but we are still working. And so there is no government in the Fourth Republic that has built more roads than the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We have built more classrooms than any other government in the Fourth Republic in the education sector. We have built more railways than any other government in the Fourth Republic. We have built more factories than any other government since independence. We have built more airports than any other government in the Fourth Republic, and we are thankful to God for that. We have built more interchanges than any other government in the Fourth Republic. We have laid more fiber optic cable to drive our digitalization than any other government since independence. And we are building more hospitals, especially under Agenda 111, than any other government since the independence of Ghana.
Rather, that's Vice President Dr. Mahmood Bawumia there. We'll bring your report in subsequent bulletins. But since July 2022, the hashtag #KenMustGo has been high up in Ghana's Twitter trends. As of December 7, it had generated 465 million impressions from over 9,600 users. A counter-narrative, Ken must stay, hashtag Ken Vindicated, emerged in November. It also stayed high up in the Twitter trends for Ghana. An investigation into the two hashtags showed one of them was a false trend. If you want to know which one is false and which one is organic, just follow Jojo Kobna in this report. He painstakingly queried influencers behind these tweets.
We are not going to the IMF. Whatever we do, we are not. The consequences are dire. We are a proud nation. We have the resources. We have the capacity. We are not people of short sight.
We will not go to the IMF today, we will not go to IMF tomorrow, and we are not going as long as the NPP remains in power.
You heard the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and Deputy Finance Minister John Kuma. They were cocksure that Ghana would never go to the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. So when President Nana Akufo-Addo announced that Ghana would engage the IMF for a bailout on 1st July 2022, many Ghanaians clamored for the resignation of Ken Ofori-Atta. At 7 a.m. on 2nd July 2022, at Obeng Appa, posted on Twitter,
"It must be tough for Nana Akufo-Addo right now, knowing that you don't have the cujons to sack your finance minister, who is clearly your undoing, simply because he's your relative."
That was when the hashtag #KenMustGo was born. The hashtag trended for days on Twitter. As of 7th December 2022, about 22,739 total tweets were garnered. 4,833 of the tweets were original and 13,967 were retweeted. 2,097 were quoted tweets, while 1,842 were replies. Analysis of the #KenMustGo hashtag revealed that Mr. Ofori-Atta received a lot of Twitter mentions whenever the cedi underperformed and fuel prices spiked. On 25th October 2022, 85 majority MPs shockingly held a press conference demanding the immediate sacking or resignation of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta.
In the interest of our side of government to remove our minister. But whatever it takes for the government to put in place the right measures, if it requires removing all the cabinet ministers and setting up a new government, we will support it.
The #KenMustGo hashtag caught fire and trended for days. There seemed to be an organic rise of public opinion on why Ken must go, and it peaked at 7,633 Twitter mentions on 25th October 2022. Anytime the cedi depreciated, many users inundated Twitter with messages calling on the finance minister to be sacked or resign. Over 9,600 users tweeted the hashtag and this generated about 465 million impressions. The most influential user of the Ken Must Go hashtag was MP for North Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, tweeting under the username S_Okudzeto-Ablak. He used the hashtag 8 times and garnered 1,738 retweets. In the heat of the clamor for the resignation or sacking of the finance minister, musician and social media activist Kwame A. Plus tweeted,
"We must begin a campaign to force the president to sack Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. Every professional association, civil society organization, workers' union, and influential people in Ghana and abroad must be part of the campaign." Unquote.
An unidentifiable Twitter user, Hitskashine, responded, hashtag Ken Must Stay. This marked the beginning of the counter-narrative Ken Must Stay. Many users pushing the Ken Must Stay narratives were faceless and cannot easily be identified. Some of the accounts were created in October 2022. These accounts only tweeted Ken Must Stay content. The most retweeted Ken Must Stay tweet was sent out by @MesiKingKong on 19th November 2022. The tweet garnered 129 retweets and 151 likes. We identified 61 accounts involved in coordinated sharing of specific messages on Twitter using the hashtag Ken Must Stay. The seemingly scripted tweets shared by these accounts contained content extolling the finance minister's economic management prowess, urging him on to stay in office. Some of the scenarios are:
the message, quote, "Undoubtedly, the Ministry of Finance is committed to working alongside all stakeholders to ensure we can reposition our economy back on a path of growth and prosperity. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, hashtag Ken Vindicated, hashtag Clueless NDC, hashtag Ken Must Stay."
The breakdown. We identified 47 distinct accounts that tweeted the message 75 times. This means that certain accounts tweeted the message more than once.
Quote, "Carefully observing the ad hoc committee's questions, it's obvious, hashtag Ken Must Stay, because the allegations all be useless and empty. Hashtag Trust Ken to deliver," unquote.
The breakdown. 34 distinct accounts tweeted the message 40 times. Again, certain accounts tweeted the message more than once.
Quote, "Interestingly, the censure hearing has inured positively to the image of the finance minister. Hashtag Ken Must Stay, hashtag Ken Vindicated, hashtag Clueless NDC," unquote.
The breakdown. 25 distinct accounts tweeted the message 27 times. This means that certain accounts tweeted the message more than once.
Quote, "Even if you hate him, you can learn from his eloquence, coherence, and calm demeanor. Hashtag Ken Must Stay, hashtag Ken Vindicated, hashtag Clueless NDC," unquote.
The breakdown. 15 distinct accounts tweeted the message 16 times. This means that certain accounts tweeted the message more than once. Who are the key drivers of Ken Must Stay? Number 1, @MesiKingKong. This account is a faceless, unidentifiable user who has 1,123 followers and follows 1,579 Twitter accounts. The account sent out 99 tweets with Ken Must Stay. The second one is @KumaKojo. This account sent out 49 tweets with the Ken Must Stay hashtag. It retweeted several tweets by @MesiKingKong, @Fabulous Ike, @Bengelo17, @Kweku Brownies, and @Ahika Doreen, all of whom were previously identified as major drivers of the Ken Must Stay narrative. Now the verdict. The Ken Must Go conversation on Twitter appeared to be relatively organic. The hashtag was tweeted by over 9,600 Twitter users. The political characters that drove this narrative on Twitter are well known, and as members of the opposition, their stance on the matter is understandable. This narrative on Twitter mirrored what appears to be the general sentiment of most Ghanaians at that time. Even NPP MPs called for Ken Ofori-Atta to be sacked. The Ken Must Stay narrative was largely inorganic. The coordinated sharing of scripted messages exposed in this work is evidence of this assertion. The hashtag was tweeted by 292 Twitter users. Most of the accounts that were involved in the sharing of Ken must stay narrative are closely linked. They follow each other, mention each other, and retweet each other's tweets. This is just one example of how social media is used to amplify certain narratives to make them appear more widespread than they actually are. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Really interesting reports there. Now, the minority in Parliament says it will file a criminal complaint to the police to look into the theft that has taken place at the site of the abandoned Saglemi project. During a site visit in November with journalists, it became clear that most fittings from doors to electrical items have all been stolen due to lax security at the project site. Deputy Ranking Member on the Works and Housing Committee, Andrew Dari Chiwute, tells JoyNews the police must go to the bottom of the case.
We intend to report this matter to the police.
Oh, yes. Police?
Yes.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yes. I was supposed to. I was supposed to go there.
Why are you involving the police? Is this why? Is that
you saw the thievery there?
Yeah, so the police should go and look for the thieves who have stolen them.
And look, well, our intention is to even get the speaker. Look, that project must be investigated. Whoever that
but the government is already investigating members of your party, including a colleague in Parliament, who they are accused of, changing the terms, doing things illegally.
How long does it have to take President Akufo-Addo, who is a lawyer, to investigate a former minister?
So what government is doing that? You want to do another investigation into what exactly?
We are going to investigate into how people got access to the buildings and stole all the things. That is what we are going to investigate into. Whoever that superintendent, the thievery, that person must be brought to book. It was a duty of someone to watch over the project. That person probably failed, or that person intentionally organized people to go and pick out whatever. Quality doors imported, glasses imported, very quality items. You saw the fittings. Probably a planting to devalue the project so that they can sell it at a very low distance to their client. You see, you keep talking about a private person. You go into this project, you get to know that it's a party member, it's a family member, or it's a friend to a family member.
Now, the Dean at the Faculty of Education of the University of Development Studies, UDS, Dr. Ibrahim Mohammed Kunu, has called for conscious efforts at addressing the phenomenon of public schools in the North always at the bottom of the WASI-BEC rankings. He says the poor performance of the students in the 5 regions up north cannot be accidental or attributed to bad luck. He says there's a need for a strategy to address this challenge. Martina Bugri has more.
Over 50% of schools in the northern region in the last 4 years continue to score less than 5% at the West Africa Senior High School examination, whilst most schools scored less than 50% at the basic certificate examination. This has become a worry to stakeholders and education watchers in the area. It's against this backdrop the Faculty of Education at the University for Development Studies is engaging stakeholders to address these challenges. Speaking at the 2022 UDS Center for Education, Innovation and Leadership Northern Education Stakeholder Dialogue, the Dean of the faculty, Dr. Ibrahim Mohammed Kunu, said the consistent failure is a concern that should be addressed.
For instance, at the junior high school level, Upper West in 2018 recorded 49.7%, 48.3% in 2019, and in 2020 scored 48%. Upper East also in 2018 scored 52.9%, and the same 52.9% in 2019. And in 2020, scored 48.6%. Looking at the trend of performance of public senior high schools in the north, the story is not different. And in 2020, 27 schools were presented for the final examination and 15 schools scored less than 5%.
The Director for Tertiary Education at the Ministry of Education, Dr. Yayira Jagbazi, delivering a speech on behalf of the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Edichum, outlined some interventions government has put in place to revive the falling standards in education.
Government has, over the past 6 years, come with some reforms. One, reform school curriculum from objective-based to standard-based. Implemented institutional reforms as regulatory bodies at the pre-tertiary level, such as the National School Inspectorate Authority, NASIA, National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA. We have the National Teaching Council, NTC, and Complementary Education Agency.
The paramount chief of Pishogo, Alhassan Andani, attributed the poor performance to the lack of concern by government, communities, families, and individuals towards their children's education.
So I think for me, the problem, and I'm a traditional ruler now, is number one, government, community, family, and the individual. But governments made sure that children will go to school. Communities made sure that any child of school-going age roaming around the community was beaten and sent to school. Families made sure that kids who had to be in school were in school.
Is Regional Director of Education, representing the various regional directors in the 5 regions, and Esla Chebo appealed to the Education Ministry to give directors the free hand to perform their duties.
A regional director cannot transfer a misbehaving teacher. Why? The powers that be will intervene, send the teacher back. So, how to reap results? The powers that be are here, and they are listening to us. And it is my hope that things will change.
That was Martina Bugri's report. This is the AM show with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Shortly, my colleague Joseph Akable will join me for the news review. Later, we'll bring you sports. And then for our big stories, GRA reverses discounts on import values on general goods and vehicles effective January 1. Good or bad? Well, we'll be discussing the implications on individuals, businesses, and the economy overall. Stay with us as we engage officials of the GRA and some other stakeholders. Also, get ready to be educated as the season 3 of the Law Challenge, which begins on January 1, 2023. We'll let you in on everything you need to know. And who is your best and worst performing minister for this year? Well, we'll be hearing your responses via phone and social media. It's a Good Friday. Do stay with us. Really grateful that you could stay with us this morning on the AM show. It's now time to bring you what's happening in the news. As usual, the papers are on a break, but we will get onto myjoyonline.com for the news stories. The top story on the site: football legend Pele dies at the age of 82. And it's quite an emotional moment there. My colleague Joseph Akable has joined me. I never grew up watching Pele. I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't.
But we've seen his works. We know his story. I remember just after Argentina won the World Cup and the debate started about who is the greatest of all time. And then those who say, please, don't even start talking. They argue that Pele is the greatest of all time. I have seen a video where he is supposedly watching the last game of this year's World Cup. between Argentina and France. But that time he was extremely frail. And I think he just held on a little while to see if Brazil could win that. And that's why the boys were really broken when they couldn't.
I remember when they advanced from one stage of the competition to the other, they had these shirts that they held to wish him speedy recovery. He was in the hospital then. I am more familiar with the other Pele, our own Abedi Pele.
Yeah.
Interestingly, got his name because of this legendary figure. And yesterday I saw a write-up about how Abedi Pele was so good such that right from his childhood, all those who saw him play called him Pele, and it grew all the way onto him. And when he ended up at Marseille, the name still went on, and he always played official name as Abedi Ayu Pele. So, with that in mind, and we all know how good Abedi Pele was, that should tell you how good the actual Pele was. and I also saw another footage of the compared skills of Messi, Ronaldo, Zidane, a number of players. Just those kind of skills that a lot of people will look to there and they'll say, okay, that's the Zidane skill, or that's the Messi skill, that's the Ronaldo skill, and all those skills were being done by Pele, and to have won the World Cup 3 times. And the interesting thing about him is when he came onto the scene, Brazil had never won the World Cup before. So it was during his period that they won it continuously for 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So it was during his period that Brazil actually became the superpower of football that we all know Brazil to be today.
Really sad moments, and thinking that, well, we could have crossed over into the new year and all of that. But hey, like I said, from the news we were hearing, the stories that were breaking, it just appeared that Pele was just holding on a little while longer so that he could stay till the end of the World Cup. And wrapping up on this conversation, I don't know, Joseph, if you've seen that snapshot of the CNN discussing Pele's death with a picture of our own Abedi. And there are people on social media who are saying that, how could CNN get it wrong? How could CNN get it wrong? But I mean, I just think that we should just do you that service of explaining to you how that happened. And so the CNN was discussing, like we've just done, players who got their names because they exhibited skills like Pele. And that is the only reason why you see Abedi's image then. So nowadays, people watch TV without really listening. So we just had to put that in. All right, so that's the top story on my Joy Online. Let's go to other stories on the site. And there are quite some disturbing ones there having to do with murder or alleged murder. There's one about a 2-month-old baby found dead in a well at Asinfosu, and another of a body of a woman suspected to have been murdered found on a farm in Impape, which is in the Saboba district of the northern region. She is believed to be a mother and in her 30s. The matter has been reported to the police, and a team has been dispatched, I beg your pardon, to the crime scene. Joseph, you are our court correspondent, and you hear some of these stories when you go to court, murder, alleged murder. But this year, 2022, what have been some of the highlights from court for you?
I think if I'll put it at the very top, I'll limit. Interestingly, I'll select Aisha Wang. Yeah, I mean, it's just because of the whole circumstances surrounding that particular matter. I thought it was quite interesting, and also because of the role or the discussions that surrounded illegal mining that came up yet again, and in the height of the nation attempting to have the conversation about illegal mining once again, then all of a sudden we hear of this individual who was virtually the poster boy of sorts of alleged illegal mining, poster girl, if you want to put it that way, just resurfacing and being back in the country. Yeah. I thought that was quite an interesting one. Another interesting one for me would be the Atuesian matter. Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, it was the first case involving the collapse of the banks that the state took to courts. I mean, the only conviction they could secure was that of Atuesian. The other accused persons were found not guilty, but we reached an agreement of sorts, having Atuesian admit to the offense at the very tail end of the case when the court was coming to read judgment, and now decide that, okay, he's going to refund the money to the states. I mean, there are those who disagree on whether that satisfies them, but I thought that case was also equally interesting.
But it was also dramatic because we're told that he actually cried in court.
Yeah.
There were moments where he spoke in tongues. So the Athanasian case was quite a dramatic one.
Yeah, I remember a quote that someone shared with me. It was one of the proceedings from court where he was asked about what he is, as in the work he does, and he was talking about being a thought leader, an entrepreneur, a solution finder, among other lots of words describing himself. I mean, I thought that was quite interesting, and I mean, the expectation of everyone is that he's able to make the money available as per the timelines that has been fixed, because the court in the last decision did indicate that in the event that he does not refund the money, it will mean that he will have to end up in jail. Let me read to you what he said when he was asked, what does he do? He said, "I am the talk of the drive of the finance minister, a true entrepreneur that creates out of nothing a businessman, capacity to assume risk. In other jurisdictions, what I do is called the risk taker. And in another common reference, they refer to what I do as an engine of growth for economics. And so, my Lord, I could have easily said an entrepreneur, but what I do is bigger than that. I could have said I'm a businessman, but what I do is more than that. I could have said that I am the anchor as an active player, as an engine for the Ghanaian economy. But I rather submit to refer to myself as a destiny carrier of this nation."
What was the reaction to that? How did the court react? How did the judge react?
Just like the way you reacted. I mean, we were like, okay, interesting. and it's one of those things that when you are done hearing, okay, you still have to say, okay, what is he again?
Yeah, because so what did you say? Like, okay, in one word, how would you describe yourself? Yeah. Right, Joseph. So talking about the courts, there's another story on myjoyonline.com about Akufo-Addo inducting 2 Supreme Court judges into office, and I'll bring you just some highlights from that story. President Akufo-Addo on Wednesday swore into office 2 newly appointed Supreme Court judges, charging the duo to help strengthen the development of the nation's constitutional and other jurisprudence in the Apex Court. The judges, both promoted from the Appeals Court, Justice Barbara Francis Aka-Ayinsu and Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu-Asiedu, succeeded the late Justice Samuel Kofi Mafo-Sao, who died on August 10, and Justice Yawa Pao, who retired on August 2, 2021. Also, for the judiciary, there's been quite a lot happening. I remember that some other Supreme Court judges were vetted in Parliament. Some too had issues, but eventually went through. Can you just run us through?
Yeah, so there's Justice George Kumsin. He was quite crucial during the Ejura proceedings, if you remember. In fact, there was a petition that was sent by the Fix the Country group to the parliamentary committee that they shouldn't approve him. So we don't know whether that is what has influenced he not being approved. So he's not been approved by Parliament. The Appointments Committee report was only in respect of Justice Samuel Siedu and Justice Aka-Ayinsu. So those 2 have been cleared. And the other one is Justice Ernest Gewu from the Volta region. He's a High Court judge who has been elevated from the High Court straight to the Supreme Court. We know that some time ago, a couple of years back, he contested as a parliamentary candidate on the ticket of the MPP. That also came up strongly.
That was an issue of contention.
During the vetting. And so he was also not, it's not been approved yet. He was not captured in the report. The report was only in respect of the 2 individuals that have been elevated. And so, but the president, during his speech on the event, made a point. Apparently so there have been 4 vacancies in recent times. 2 of the judges just retired, I think between October and November, 2 of them again, aside from the 2 that these 2 individuals went on to replace. So, I mean, we know that Justice Mafo-Sao unfortunately died, and Justice Apel, then there's Justice Agnes Doji, and there's one other, Justice Onyenuga. So those are the 4 individuals who have left the bench. And so the president expressed the expectation or the hope that these other 2 will also receive the approval, then they'll be sworn in to take their seats on the bench as well.
Yeah, there's another story which is of key interest because we are wrapping up the year. Tomorrow, God willing, will be 31st, and many Christians will go to church. We know the police has sent a reminder saying, look, we are cautioning you about our directive on what it refers to as illegal communication of prophecies. Well, there's been a lot of reaction to that. There are those who say that, look, it didn't need to take the police to come and say this. What are all these Christian organizations doing, or Christian groupings, the Christian Council, the Charismatic Council? But there's a Kumasi-based bishop who is saying that, look, the Christian Council cannot control pastors. Okay, but even from the legal perspective, Joseph, can anybody really control a religious grouping or an organization?
I mean, it'll be very difficult. I mean, the only option that will be available is instances where the actions of the pastors are contrary to the law.
Right.
I mean, there are issues about causing fear and alarm and all those offenses. And when the police commenced this, should I say, crackdown of sorts from last year, you recall that is when we got that prophecy about Umofia from, I think, Nigel Gacy. Yeah, I mean, instead of, we don't know if you're still talking about Ghana, but that was what he used to do. I mean, I think over the years, there have been concerns from people about this end of year prophecies and hearing that this person will die and this person will die. I think the greatest one that was really of concern was the one that related to one of the religious leaders. And that I mean, urged people to call for some action to be taken. And since then, we've seen the police try to deal with it. So it's still a thorny issue and a very difficult arena for the police to navigate.
Yeah. But how would you rate their handling of it?
I think so far maybe if it were 10, I would say maybe 4 over 10. I still think they should try and use the approach of engaging the church as they try to do when this IGP took over. I try to engage them. I think they should meet those, especially the pastors who are in the prophecy business. They should try and engage them. I think there's a way to communicate. There's a way to communicate and not cause that kind of panic that.
Maybe follow Jesus' example by giving it in parables.
Perhaps. or like the prophets of old. Sometimes, they go to the kings and talk to them.
But and I think that's the challenge, and that's why some of these, that's what I think, some of them take advantage of social media because it is now difficult to get access. I mean, you can't just walk to the president and say, I have a prophecy for you, or walk to the vice president and say, I have a prophecy for you. So you want to use the power of technology to deliver it.
If it's a prophecy, because there are two ways to look at it. For instance, if it's a prophecy that requires that the man of God can take certain steps on behalf of the individual to avert that calamity that's supposed to happen. I mean, I think the prophet can on his own do that. In the event the person is supposed to undertake certain actions, I still think, I mean, it depends on the caliber of man of God, because I can't imagine if it relates to the president meeting every single man of God who have a dream or prophecy about the president. I mean, that's a tall order. It's impossible. So there has to be some certain limits of sort.
Yeah, interesting. And as you're talking about prophecies, my mind is just racing because I'm going through all the Bible stories that I know. And I can't seem to find any necessarily where the prophet of God took an action on behalf of the people. It was usually you as an individual who had to take an action. And also, usually it will be that sometimes it's just for you to know, not necessarily for you to take an action. If you choose to look at Hezekiah, for example. So the prophet goes to Hezekiah and says, God says, put your house in order because you're going to die soon. Hezekiah on his own decided to pray. So the prophet delivers the message and then walks away, right? And on his way, God says, go back and tell him. Because I've heard his prayer, that's Hezekiah, go back and tell him that I've extended his years, right? Okay. Someone just said preach. So I'm just remembering all my Bible stories.
So I mean, it means that he didn't accept his fate has been done.
And so I think that, I mean, this is a conversation we've tried to have even here. I mean, I remember on shows we're talking about dreams and I just think that it's people should just acquaint themselves with some of these things, There's some people who've heard prophecies, like Paul. He was in a meeting once and someone gave him a prophecy and it wasn't wrong. It was an accurate prophecy, but the person's interpretation of it was wrong. He said that, I think he illustrated that Paul was going to be bound or something. He was going to enter some calamity, and so he shouldn't go to the next town that he wanted to go to. And Paul still went ahead. It was just information for him to decide on his own what he wanted to do. So I
think visions have always been part of us since time memorial, and I mean, we all don't like the uncertainty surrounding us, but sometimes the visions can put us in a lot of
stress,
discomfort. I mean, especially the ones about death related. That I mean, this was going to happen.
But then we'll be wrapping up on this shortly. But then the big question again is the "and so what" question. So this example I gave of Hezekiah, the prophet went straight to him as an individual. What is it of benefit to everybody if I come and say that person A or person B is going to die next year. Like, so what?
Yeah,
how does it benefit me as an individual?
The answer would be the access problem you raised earlier. That okay, I wanted to tell them behind.
But interestingly, some of these people who do this actually have a lot of political influence and access.
So, yes, they do.
So for such people, I don't think that would be an excuse.
I agree with you.
Why would you come and tell me that person A or person B would die? Well, what benefit is it to me? Unless you're trying to say or prove that, yeah, I see from God. It's like making a point. And anyway, don't let me go into that controversial arena this morning. So Joseph, the year is wrapping up. People are having fun. There are major concerts happening. A lot of our brothers and sisters from outside the country have arrived. I saw a photo of Meek Mill.
Yeah,
he's in Ghana.
He actually performed at the Afro Nation yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, Burna Boy also performed at Afrochella last night as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Burna Boy. Yeah.
Okay, you've been following it.
Oh yeah. I actually attended a few. I mean, I have a couple that I always do, like Manifestivities and Walla Fest. Those are the two that are always on my calendar. I don't miss those ones.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are others I just try to follow from afar. And I think at this point we need to commend the Tourism Authority and government for that matter. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen Ghana become the December or Christmas destination.
Yeah.
I mean, we have concerts after concerts, big people. There's this other biker, this global icon biker who's also in Ghana. I saw videos of him on the streets with the bike doing his thing, with people all the way following him. You have musicians. I mean, there are a lot of people, Chance the Rapper, all those guys are all in town having various concerts. And so I think we should try and continue with that, to continue to, get some revenue.
And I think that it's good you mentioned the consistency, because when we started this with the Year of Return, that was an event. That was major because we were commemorating, was it?
I think about 400 years.
400 years since the first slave ship left. And we had Nancy Pelosi here. We had Steve Harvey. We had great people. But the big question was, would we be able to continue? And I think that we have shown that we have the capacity to do so. And so kudos to all those who are involved in making Christmas, Ghana, the Christmas destination for the rest of the world. So what are you looking forward to in 2023?
I think first would be good health. I mean, I think this year, for me personally, on a health level was very difficult. So I expect very good health next year. Then the second will obviously be finances. I mean, the economy was battered. I mean, just a couple of minutes just before I came, I went to fill my tank, and I was actually happy that I was able to fill it for the first time in a while because the prices are coming down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even though the EIU and all those guys seem to be suggesting that things may not go as we all expect it to, we can ask for grace and mercies that we're able to pull through. Then religious growth and fulfillment in life and career and all the other things that you wish for me that you can't say to me.
Joseph, I do the questioning here, but I mean, like you said, it's very important that we all have had quite a year when it comes to health. And that's why when you said health, I was nodding, because it's been hard. And for those of you who are consistent viewers of this show, you know that there have been times that I've been off. There have been times that I've even been struggling to speak on air, coughing and all of that. So we trust that next year will be kind towards us and God will show us mercy in regards to our health. And of course, the economy. I mean, that is a really important one. And I know that as we're going into 2023, there are a lot of you parents who are really cutting down on costs, because you know what's coming up with school fees and other things that you have to cater for. We trust that it will be a good year for all of us. And I really hope that next year will be more relaxing and stress-free. You know, there's just been a lot of ups and downs for many people, but we just hope that next year will be kind to all of us. And I pray that you will be alive to consistently and continuously watch us here on JoyNews and make us your #1 choice. So, Joseph, that'll be it. But I'm happy you could join me to do this morning. And well, I've been told to go a little more because we don't really have you all the time. So I've been asked to milk you. Okay, so there's one on the OSP causing reversal of discretionary discount on free on-board value of goods. Reminds me of what happened earlier this year with that company that was that was cited for undervaluing products and all that. But Joe, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, seen more work than before?
It's very tough. I think the current OSP has good communication. I tend to prefer to judge prosecutors with the outcomes. And we know that with La Bianca, I was able to recover $1 million cedis for the GRA. A number of prosecutions ongoing. I will still wait to see the outcomes by way of convictions, and that will be what I think, or by way of recoveries or corruption prevention. That, I think those should be the yardsticks. And so far, I would just say that he seems to be on the right path in terms of laying the accurate foundation. But I will just wait a bit more on that. The bit about the latest decision concerning the reversal of the discretionary discount, it has some implications for those who be importing vehicles next year. I mean, the prices will be obviously higher simply because of how discretion has been abused over the period, and now that has been taken away completely, and it comes with its own challenges for us. And so, yes, the GRA is trying to rake in more revenue. The special prosecutor is also trying to get his work done and also take credit for this latest development as well.
All right, and there's one on your school, University of Ghana tops Ghana's university rankings, and it reminds me, so it's very interesting in our newsroom sometimes when all these boys who went to Legon and KNUST and UCC are fighting over which school is the best. I'm sure this settles the debate for you. Are you happy about it?
That's always been settled. I mean, to be fair, the last 3 or 4 years, University of Ghana, things were not going quite well. So that was when they fell in the rankings. But the 4-year period that I was at Legon was always #1 in Ghana and among the highest in Africa. It's been that way for a while till there was a change after Professor Aite left. I mean, if I'm going to be very specific, Professor Aite left the period till Professor Nana Bamfu took over. That was the period that Legon descended and went all the way down. And so, for me, from my period at Legon, this is consistent with Legon. And I think, there are other universities in Ghana that I admire, like Ashesi University. Yeah, I think Ashesi is a modern university. I think if I had my way and I'm going back to do an undergraduate program, I would like to go to Ashesi. I think it's fantastic. But if you are going to do public university, I think it should be Legon.
Your school will be proud of you. Yeah, you're a good example of what Legon does to individuals. So there's another interesting one on WhatsApp. Let's just open that story. WhatsApp ending support for nearly 49 Android and iPhone models on January 1. So can we open that story and get the details? All right, so I will try to open that in a bit for you. But this has always been coming.
Yes,
we've always known this.
Phones.
Yeah, and I strongly believe that it is a way for these phone companies to keep making money. Because they'll tell you that, okay, some of the models, the way they are created, they cannot support new softwares and new technologies. And so, for example, if you're holding an iPhone 5 or 6, you can update your iOS after a certain point. It's almost nearly impossible. So let's just bring you details of that story. WhatsApp will be ringing in the new year by ending support for some older smartphones from Sunday, January 1, including Apple's iPhone, Samsung and Huawei phones, some 49 devices, older smartphone models. Those in question now were released about a decade ago, will no longer be supported by the service, meaning WhatsApp updates will no longer be possible on devices still running an operating system older than Android 4.1 and all iPhones not yet running iOS 12. This change means the company won't support these devices with updates, meaning bugs and other issues may crop up over time without any fix available. Users will receive an alert from WhatsApp if the function of the app will be affected. So this is just by way of information for you. And don't say that, oh, I bought my phone just yesterday, so I'm not affected. Keyword is released about a decade ago. So you should be checking your phone to be sure that you don't fall in that category. If you begin to see any of these issues or bugs with your WhatsApp, then you should know that.
It's an interesting story. Yes. I mean, I'm looking. There's a list of the phones down there. So there's Apple iPhone 5. There's the iPhone 5C. There's the HTC Desire 500. I mean, I remember the HTC Desire 500 so well. I mean, these are phones that a couple of years ago they were like the ish. Like you save up and you're trying to get it and your money still can't get it. And you have to go and try and get a second-hand one. Maybe I don't know. I think the companies they simply want to fade them completely and have people buy their new products. Because either than that, I still feel like the old WhatsApp versions, they should be allowed to use on those devices.
Yeah, and that's why it's saying that you won't be able to update your WhatsApp version, but I'm just sure after a while it will give you problems. That's what I think. And WhatsApp has become such an integral part of our lives. And so you know what these companies do, they get you hooked onto it, and then you have no choice but to try and adapt to the changes within the technological space. So for those of you who use all these phones, it's quite a tall list. You can just get onto myjoyonline.com to find out if your phone, Galaxy S3 Mini, Samsung Galaxy Trend 2, if you're a victim, you may just want to start saving up now. And you've had enough for Christmas. Please just try and save up to upgrade your phone so that you don't suffer in 2023. And before I let you go, finally, Joseph, today we are asking our viewers to rate their worst performing and best performing ministers for this year. Who are those for you? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, best will be very difficult to.
Okay, it has been for most of our analysts. They're unable to find a best performing minister, but it's easier for them to find out those at the bottom.
At the bottom, where they mention the finance minister?
Mention finance ministry.
Oh, Ofori-Atta. It has been a tough year for Ofori-Atta. Very tough. In terms of best, I'm still trying to figure out the best, but it's really very difficult. Very difficult. I don't think anyone really sticks out for me as being the best minister. Maybe if push comes to shove, I may settle on the energy minister just because my lights have been on for a while. I mean, that's the only reason why I will settle on him. Initially, when he came in, there was a period, I think about a month into a little over a month, where there were outages in parts of Accra. There was a little bit of load shedding at some point. Then in the Ashanti region too, they had very serious problems.
Yes.
And he kept assuring that it was going to be a thing of the past, and people still expressed doubts. I mean, I think we all know that it's done and dusted. My lights I don't remember the last time my lights went off. The last time I went to him recently was just off for a couple of hours. And when I even got to him, there was one, I wasn't even worried.
Yeah, because you knew it would come back.
Anyways. Yeah. So that was once in like 6 or 7 months. I mean, I think if I have to settle on someone, he'll be my pick. I mean, for the West, I think for the West, there are varying degrees of poor performance that we can rate almost every other person, including the finance minister, who I think initially when he came into office in 2017, I think he did quite a good job. I put him there because of his insistence on staying in office, despite everything that's happened. And I believe that even for the sake of a breath of fresh air, if I were in his shoes, I would step away. So, I mean, we all know how the economy is doing, and he's the one in charge. There's no one else to blame if the things are not going well.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for doing this.
Thanks.
And all the best in the coming year. Well, we've heard from Joseph. We'd like to hear from you. Later on in the show, you get the opportunity to share your thoughts and views on who the best and worst performing ministers of 2022 are. Do stay. Up next is AM Sports.
My name is Kachimami Sewabanayi. I am a 6'5" center player at Cham Basketball Academy. I am 11 of age. It has been 2 years now since I started playing basketball. Since my coach took me through the fundamentals, I'll be able to dribble, shoot, and the rest. Go, finish. Good job. Yeah, My dad is tall, my brother is tall, and my uncles. It runs in the family.
My father is not tall, but my mother is a little bit tall. But my daughter, the father was tall. I say was tall because he's no more. The father is very tall. So it's range from the father's side, and I think my mother's side. My mother is a little bit tall.
Good job. Catherine's brother is a player as well. He plays for the U16 division. So actually, the brother started playing for my team in 2018 when we started this whole program. Yeah. So it was one day that I spoke with the brother that said there's a young sister that he wants to start playing the game. Actually, I met the mother as well. Then we took it from there. All right, keep going, keep going.
Oh yes. I didn't say anything. Actually, when he told me that he will send her, I was happy because with the height he can do something with it. So I didn't upgrade it. It was a good thing for me.
So from there she started training. She wasn't, with that height, you know. I have a picture, I remember we took together when we started. Actually started with 3 girls, and Catherine was part. It was actually around 5'5". That was the height then. But she was 8 years.
I remember when I gave birth to her, 2 weeks time, I was supposed to go and see the doctor for review. So when I went there, the doctor told me to go and check the weight and the height. So when I sent her there, the nurses put her in the scale, and she was taller than the scale. So they have to hang her. Instead of weighing her, they have to hang her. So all the nurses were surprised. Hey, 2 weeks girl, and she's tall like this. They start calling each other to come and see. They were saying it in Ga. I don't understand Ga much, but they were saying Beke, Eke, and about 2 of the nurses came. So instead of them to weigh her, they just hang her 2 weeks. Then when I brought her home, I realized that when I put her in the cot, she wasn't fitting the cot. Always the leg is outside. So when people come and visit me, they will try to tease her holding the leg. So I have to take her from the cot. So that is the time I realized that this girl will be tall.
Oh. Quick, sprint. Good job. You know, with that height, it's quite exceptional. It's quite special when it comes to that height. Yeah, so at the age 11 years and 6'5", we see it to be exceptional. We see that, yeah, she has to further develop so that she can live her dream. Deny, in.
My strength, dribbling, my height. I really like to take the role of the point guard because I'm good in dribbling.
Catherine started from the scratch. Let me see the fundamentals in 2018. With the height, when you get to other places, they will say she has to be a center player, she has to be a power forward, she can't bounce, she can't dribble. But Catherine actually started from the scratch, fundamentals, dribbling, bouncing, and all that. So she's really good on the court, movement on the court, dribbling, bouncing, shooting, whatever it is. She can take the role of a point guard if you ask her to do that.
She surprised me at the age of 11, and the way she plays, she surprised me. She surprised me very well. The time I saw her, I think at the Snakes flat, they were playing there, and she did very well. And it's my prayer that she will go higher.
Catherine is a very good player, and when we are on court, she's very hard on defense. And I love playing with her when she's on my team because she's tall. The moment you give her the ball, she just shoots the ball and make a basket. It's fun playing with her.
I want to take basketball to the next level. That's the WNBA, to be the next Liz Cambridge. It's my dream since I was a kid to play the WNBA.
We most of the time sit and talk after training. Off the court, we sit and talk, and she makes me know that she wants to live her dream. She wants to play in the WNBA one day and be a great player in the WNBA. So actually, we are guiding her to be on a direct path now to achieve her dreams.
she's focused on what she's doing, when he says she will do this, he makes sure that she does it. So always, you see the rim, always he used to play here. You see her alone playing here, around, playing here around. So I know she wants to go higher. Yeah.
The thing about youth and genetic giftings like that is that there's a lot of potential. And potential is always a great thing, but potential is just potential. Something has to move that potential. So one thing we are looking to do because of things like that is to be able to have a place for her to thrive as well. So in the future, I want to do a youth league for girls, because technically girls should not be playing in a boys' league, you understand, especially at the U16 level. So the next thing is that we have to create an environment where young girls who have talent or potential to grow, right, can grow. So I'm excited to see what happens. She's really young. I'm always excited to see young people play. And I really hope that she does great things with basketball.
We're still developing her as a kid with a dream of playing basketball professionally, getting to the WNBA. Now we are working on the speed on the court. You know, as a basketball player, you have to work with speed on the court, whatever you're doing on the court. Actually dribbling, also with the post moves. There are a lot of challenges that she's facing, but at her age, we are trying to let her understand how to move around, how to get the post moves and everything, and also the finishing. Yeah, these are the things that we are working on at the moment, and try to get to know her, that when she's playing, she has to put aside all whatever challenges of the court and focus on what is on the court, focus on whatever she's doing, and be confident.
Normally, when he comes and he doesn't do well, I always encourage her to be bold. Sometimes he doesn't have confidence there, so when there is a problem, he come and tell me, then I'll advise her that in case when he gets to the park, always she should stand firm, because where she wants to go, he needs stamina and she needs strength and he needs confidence to go there. WAMB, you have to have strength and confidence and stamina. So always I encourage her to do the good thing. If it's bad, I just tell her, be careful.
We are taking it step by step. We don't have to force it to break her down. We know at her age, we know the kind of drills that she's supposed to do, and the hours or the kind of minutes that she has to put in, the kind of breaks that she has to get when training. So we are doing it bit by bit, and we pray that very soon she gets into a system whereby she can further develop as a player.
Passion is on display here. This is what gives them joy and hope for a better future through this sport. These talented footballers train daily on this surface, a surface that is God-forsaken but has produced stars who graced the green fields in Europe and other parts of the world. The Beacon Park, which means the Black Park, is a small space in the middle of buildings in Kanda used for football purposes. This is not an area that will crop up in football conversations, not even Nima, an area which has produced some of the greatest players to ever wear the national colors.
Mohamed Polo, the dribbling magician. Mohamed Polo, the magnificent. The story about the magician player. The player with different accolades. I'm a maestro. I'm a wizard. I'm polo to polo. I'm wonder boy. I'm player extraordinaire. I'm scientist footballer. I'm footballer extraordinaire. Matter.
Mohamed Polo was born and bred in Nima. He rose to become a legend of Hearts of Oak, won Ghana Footballer of the Year in 1975, and was also named in the CAF team of the tournament during the 1978 Africa Cup of Nations, after helping Ghana to its third continental title. Since Polo's retirement in the early 90s, Nima has struggled to produce players of like quality.
The moment the field started to diminish, they were building houses and whatever it is. So the interest of football, dropped. And these young ones who are supposed to have that sort of, field to enjoy, have no place to go. So if you don't go to a certain team, you just, it's very difficult.
Just 2 major parks in Nima, and one is in the Kanda cluster of schools. The park is a playground of students during sports competitions. Due to the chronic inadequacy of pitches, the students and pupils share with the rest of the community. The Kaukudi Park is the other, but frequent use and congestion are major concerns.
We are unable to train adequately due to the congestion. Many teams train here.
Before we start training. Because of the time.
It makes it difficult for each team to have enough time to train. It is really affecting our fitness level. We cannot even play matches here.
We are over. Sometimes matches matches. We have matches. We do a strength camp parking. We shall affect camp parking.
This has had a ripple effect on budding talents and their development. Samson, for instance, is a winger whose creativity has been stifled.
Playing from here, you see from here I have to cut in, and you looking at, I wish the camera can actually picture that place. You could see what will I say erosion has done to that place. It's like impossible to do that. Like from here, you as a right wing, or let's say the right back, it's impossible doing that from that angle. It's very, very, very difficult. So I don't know. So if you're actually playing on that wing, you just have to avoid, or you can't do anything much there.
Yeah. So how does it affect you? Because you are someone who knows how to dribble, who knows how to score, yet you get to a certain part of the pitch, then you have to change your plans.
Yeah. So you changing your plans, automatically, like, the goal is not going to come from that angle. So either you have to take the ball back, or let's say pass to your player, or any option there. But you can't just drive. For there, you can't drive. Either you're going to fall and you're going to get injured, or even passing the ball forward, it's not going to go through.
Rainfall worsens the state of the park. Part of the park is eroded due to the downpour. The balls easily get tattered when we play.
When you sleep small, no cantonsh and canshina some problem by easy, especially the other side of the park and be the calcium.
There is a cesspit tank around, and its sewage streams onto the field. The liquid waste often leaves our body in stench. There is also a borehole beneath the park, and its pillars are visible. One can easily get injured if they fall on these pillars.
From these sandy pitches, this community produced the likes of Ajax star Mohamed Kudus, Anderlecht Majid Ashimeru, and Abdul Manaf of Eupen. Before the football world appreciated their craft, they needed platforms such as Right to Dream, Wafa, and Aspire academies to live the dream their colleagues here are yet to wake up from.
There are other places within Nima, for instance, this place, downside, towards Michigan, towards the NASA Bridge, towards the Berlin Bridge. What about the children there? Where can they play? So our city authorities must start to think. You worry that there's a lot of crime here. I was out of the country when I heard a big fight near the big gutter. Do you think if we had created avenues for these children to play, to exhibit their talent and become good footballers, they'll be engaged in this? Our leaders should not only think about, trying to arrest people because they are criminals. They should also think about preventative measures where we can provide opportunities for young people to have hope in life, and football can give a lot of hope.
Awalu Angulu Mahama is a football manager who is well known in the football community for organizing various football tournaments to unify the youth and promote peace. Former Asante Kotoko and Black Stars midfielder Issa Ahmed, Great Olympics captain, and Black Galaxies midfielder Razak Kasim have benefited from his initiative. He is worried about the scarcity of pitches.
Nima, where the General Hospital is a park. They came and took it from us. After that, no park. That was where was bringing everybody together that time. Those Mohamed Polos and LB, Anas Tondes, that park was feeding Nima and Newtown. After that park, it has created a lot of problem for us. Without space, without pitches, even if it's Sakura pitches, we have to get them enough. But without pitches, where can they go and play? And without pitches, and they don't get place to play, they rather move to ghettos. So we need that pitches for the youth. Very, very important. With pitches and good pitches, we can get a lot of talent.
But all is not gloomy. At the Kaukudi Park, a walking distance away from the gravel surface, is a new project for an AstroTurf pitch. It's been funded by the $1 million One Constituency, One AstroTurf initiative through the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program under the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives. The redevelopment of the park into a FIFA standard multi-purpose pitch began in 2020, with projected completion in 3 months. It is meant to help these talents realize their goals, but almost 3 years on, the excitement that greeted the construction of this AstroTurf is now one of despair.
Park in Ayuma community. Mayajima, almost before election, Akachi, Yafia carry park before election.
Brothers love training. The park was intended for the community and it has taken long. The plan was to finish it before the 2022 election, but election is done and we haven't seen any improvements. The youth are angry to play. We want the government to come and finish the construction for us.
Activities they were. Today we can about muna bumbol. Kawa muna just good physical assurance. Abina muke inkena. So they do mutane ezuka kamamba.
We trained to create awareness that we need the park to be completed. If they are reluctant, they should tell us. We are willing to organize ourselves and finish the project.
So that we community, we vote mukuma mudomu ya kinaka park no so mugaro so abeki amudu kamubuga. Amfani mudu kani.
Yaran skura na zuwa irin Fridays makaranta kaduba suna zo mu koro su ma adadi kuma wurin wasan suke ga
Usually when we come around and the children are here training, we sack them so that we can have access to the pitch to train. It is really not the best, and we are hoping and pleading with authorities to finish the project for us. We are willing to help in any way for the completion of this project.
One more private national government who reach one government. The government key halaba problem by. One by government key imba muna ruko me shift to the kinds so that support yeso park in fact.
One of the second division clubs, 3 second division clubs normally in park can use. All these 3 clubs.
We have 3 second division clubs and codes division training here. These codes teams produce Majid Asimeru, Nuruddin Manaf, and Mohammed Kudus. We don't know what is stalling the completion. Those in charge should come out and explain to us.
As to government co-individual about Musaniba.
Well, it's now time for us to have a big story just gone by. There was sports. GRA has reversed discounts on import values on general goods and vehicles, and this starts January 1. I know some of you may not be excited, but we need to find out from the GRA why exactly this is happening. And you can judge for yourself whether it's a good or bad move. We'll also be figuring out the implications on individuals, businesses, and the general economy. This morning, I have 2 officials from the Customs Division of the GRA, Justice Indronan Maga Yajaimi. I hope I got it right. Yes, okay. Please. He's Supervisor, Vehicle Valuation Unit, and I know you have a lot of questions for him. We'll be getting interactive. I'll allow you to also engage these officials. And on my far left is Bilson Jadab Ataba. He's Supervisor, Custom Technical Services Bureau. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Great to have you. Hope you're having a good time. Is the season treating you well?
Yes.
Or like me, you are working?
Oh,
no holidays for you.
We're gotten our target, but we are still struggling for more.
That's good. That's good. It's always good to exceed your target. So let's talk about this reversal of discount on goods and vehicles. Let me start with you, Mr. Yajaimi. What is the genesis of all of this?
Okay. In 2019, when the government came in 2017, 2019, before even 2019, there have been discussions as to how to help businesses. So this was consummated in 2019, and the Vice President in April announced this, that they were going to get discounts on goods imported and vehicles. So this ran from 2019 up to somewhere last year. And then discussions began because there were moves by Manda Ministry, Finance Ministry, to try and see how, because every policy you make, it doesn't run forever.
Right.
At least there are periodic reviews to see how it worked, whether the intended purpose was actually achieved. So last year the discussion began, and then there were moves to get it taken off. But we work with various stakeholders, GUTA, AGI, various pharmaceutical councils, various groups. So they all expressed concerns about the removal. So it was finally agreed this year, that was in February this year, that there should be a gradual reduction of the benchmark. So that was why from March 1st, there was a reduction for goods from 50% to 30%, and for vehicles from 30% to 10%. So that's basically it.
So that's the genesis of all of this. Yes. So what does this really mean for businesses and individuals who are importing into the country?
For businesses and individuals, we have gone back to the status quo, where they were, because previously duties were calculated on the 100% FOV values. And for vehicles, the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So it was the full value on which the duty was calculated. But for certain considerations that the government put in place and then took into consideration, they gave certain dispensations. But just as I said, policies don't run forever. So on the government's part, there was review, and then they realized the intended purpose has been achieved. So we go back to the status quo. For businesses, they need to adjust because definitely there will be increase in the taxes in some way, the amount they'll pay. So they will need to adjust. And it even depends on where you belong. Because if it's AGI, AGI welcomes it. For AGI, they think that it is going to help local businesses to grow. And for those who import like Guta, they think that it will increase their cost of doing business. So they just have to adjust to the new policy and then we'll move on.
All right, let me come to you, Mr. Atagba. You have something to add?
Add to what he said about the benefits. The actual goal, the target is to the consumer. This discount policy was geared towards relief to the consumers. For instance, the importers import goods and they are charged at a discount rate. This is supposed to have an impact on the consumer.
But now you're taking it off, it means that the consumer will not
Exactly.
benefit
Why?
from the
Because the impact is not felt. The beneficiaries that are targeted are not having that impact. That effect is not seen by the consumers. For instance, when it started, Abosokai, they had 0% rated for some of their products. Then, in addition to that, the discounts. You go to the market, the deviation from the price and after the implementation or during the implementation was about the same or even higher. And when you ask them, they said duties have increased. Apparently, we have given discount, we have given you lower rates. So why will you price the things to the consumer? So what it means is that the distributor, the retailer, or the importer
is the one benefiting.
Yes. Right. But the majority of the consumers do not benefit from the policy because prices have not deviated so much from, let's take away this apparent effect of the global economic downturn. Nothing like that changed when the economy was stable. So in effect, the reason for some of this reversal is due to the non-effects on the consumers.
But let's talk about the timing. I've had encounters, discussions with business people. They talk about the harsh economic times. I understand your concerns that the consumers may not necessarily be feeling the impact of these discounts that you give to businesses. But the timing of this, is this not a bit too harsh?
Anyway, that is a government policy. We are implementers of government policy. So when it comes to policy directives, as stated in the budget statement, at the end of every year or November, government comes out with a budget statement. In that budget statement, there are policy directives that are geared towards revenue mobilization or relief to some sectors of the public or the population. So government in its own wisdom will just say, no, let's do this or that. You know what we are going for? We are going to IMF, and a lot of things will have to give way. We need to mobilize more revenue for social interventions by government. So how do you mobilize those revenues? There are things we cannot do because we ratify some of these agreements together with other member nations. You cannot send this to parliament. Looking at the hung parliament we have in Ghana now, it will be very difficult for some of these things to be sent there for rates, like tax rates, to be removed, or for us getting out of ECOWAS. ECOWAS is a body that comprises some 15 nations in West Africa who have embodied the use of the CET, Common External Tariff, that we all use the same rates. You get it? So you cannot go and change the rates alone. Unilaterally, you cannot have that done unless it is sent to Parliament or the whole body of the economic body will have to decide to change that. And if you cannot do that, what do? You have to bring in other measures. So some of these measures that are being dealt with, like the reversal, is just a way of mobilizing more revenue.
So,
if you are looking at the timing, I think to add to what he said, there have been discussions, as I said, yes. Various interest groups were brought on board before the government, they put it in the budget. So the timing, I don't see anything wrong with it because they are aware that definitely this is going to happen.
So and they here is in reference to the stakeholders.
The AGI, the various, they were all invited. Yes.
Budget, before budget is formulated or whatever, they go to all the stakeholders, yes. They are engaged.
Well, I mean, you are not politicians, so I wouldn't want to go into that arena with you because we've had issues and instances where there have been references made to certain engagements, but the stakeholders say they've not been engaged. Classic example has to do with the TUC and the debt exchange program, which we see government's reversal on. But let's go back to the issue of the reversal on discount. So this takes effect on the 1st of January, which is a Sunday. What does it mean if I've imported goods and they are on the way, they are yet to arrive? Will it take effect based on the import date or the date of arrival?
Okay, what happens is that's why in the memo, there are concessions. So if you look at the memo, if you import, for now, you have it, for instance, if you have a vehicle or container in the port, and you decided not to pay the duty, it will affect you when it takes effect. If you have goods coming in and the vessel hasn't arrived, and then you have the BL, we have the section which gives you the opportunity, that's section 50, pre-entry of our law 891, that's the Customs Act 2015, 891. It gives you the opportunity to be able to put in a BOE, that's a bill of entry, and then when it is assessed, your goods are assessed, you are given the opportunity to pay. And for us as customs, to be able to enter and then avoid any future effect of any change in policy or any change in rates or taxes, you need to first enter it in the system. We have a word we call entered, and that word entered has a meaning. You should have captured it in the system as in ICOMS. The system will validate, and then you go to the bank, pay. Once you effect the payment, then you know that you have done everything that is required. So when there is any change in policy, like this one, you are not affected. So that has also been captured for stakeholders to know that they can go through some of these things to avoid. But if you look at the memo again, the very first point on transitional provision is giving them the opportunity to be able to, for those goods which will be discharged on 31st, it's not their fault. So to be fair, that's why you see that there's fairness stated there, to be fair to them, so that we don't have complaints about people saying they've gone through hassle, their goods were discharged on 31st, and it was Saturday, they couldn't clear. That is why that one is giving them the opportunity to be able to clear it without the effect of the new directive. So they should take the memo as it's stated. If you have goods coming, you can pay. There's opportunity for you to get your agent to put in a bill of entry, you pay, and then when it arrives, you just do manifest margin and clear it.
So that means that you just have a very, very small window, because tomorrow is a Saturday.
Yes.
And Sunday, 1st January, that takes effect. So if you're listening to us and you're expecting goods, you just want to do as you're being told this morning. So it's interesting. For many people, it's not a case of whether we have discounts or not. They say that, look, the kind of computation customs do, especially on vehicles that come into this country, is astronomical. Someone says, I bought a car for $2,000 and I get here and I'm being asked to pay like 10,000 cedis, or even about 5 times the cost of the vehicle or more. Why is that? Why do we have to go through such stress?
Okay, if you look at the vehicle valuation covered by Section 6891/2015, that's the law. And per the law, we don't look at your transaction value if it's a used vehicle. If there are new vehicles, we go through your invoice, we go through, make sure that it's reasonable. Yes, that is how much you have actually paid for it. then we use it for valuation. But if it's used vehicle, it's treated differently. With a used vehicle, that law allows us to use the manufacturer's suggested retail price. That is the price that was actually sold to the first user of the vehicle by a dealer in such vehicle. So this is a database of all the prices on all vehicles, whether from Europe or from North America, Canada, which is the same region. They are in the system. So when you come, A comes with the same vehicle, B comes with the same vehicle. You are supposed to pay the same amount of tax. Unless, of course, there's exchange rate variation, which will account for that. If not, you are supposed to. This is just to be fair to everybody.
So if I get you clearly, if Mr. Ataba Bilson buys a Corolla and it's used and he buys it at 2,000 cedis, and I buy the same vehicle and I buy it at 1,500, what the GRA or what the Customs Division is trying to do is to ensure that because it's the same vehicle,
yes,
we pay the same thing.
Yes.
And so you don't evaluate it based on how much he bought it or how much I bought it, but how much the manufacturer or dealer of the vehicle pegs the price at.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. This law was made for a reason. It has a history, a long history. Ghanaians during a champion time, when they were allowed for the first time to bring a used vehicle, they were allowed to bring their bill of sales. But this was this case where even at that time, bill of sales were faked. You understand? So this law has a background. So at a point, they just had to, policymakers resolve that, okay, then let's be fair to everybody. Once you bring the same vehicle, the same engine capacity, the big model, and the type, the fuel type is the same, everything is the same. Like, the two of them should pay the same amount of duty. You understand? So to be fair, this was based on fairness because as part of the canons of taxation, we are supposed to be fair. Assessment must be fair, collection must be fair.
We'll be opening the phone lines shortly. My colleague will put it up on the screen, 0302211691, 0302211691. If you have any questions for Mr. Ataba and Mr. Yajaime, we'll be glad to hear them. I will be taking more reactions from other stakeholders, but let me come to you, Mr. Yajaime. So we've spoken about this. I want
to add to what he said. The difference between the valuation of goods and vehicles are very, very different. For goods, they are regulated by the WTO laws, principles. Article 7 clearly defines that of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. But when it comes to used vehicles especially, there's no formula from WTO that regulates or that will actually help you in processing vehicle valuation. So it is something that each member nation develops.
Okay, on its own.
On its own.
So if you're watching us and you have issues with this, it means you need to speak to your member of parliament, because if there's going to be any change, it has to come through the laws.
Yes.
Customs cannot do anything about
Exactly.
it. Right. We'll be joined shortly by President of GUTA, Joseph Obeng, for his quick thoughts on this. But so for goods, right, how will this work out? We know how this will pan out for vehicles, the percentage. For goods, what are the real values
goods,
that
it started with 50%, then it was reduced, like he said, 30%, and now we are supposed to take it off. So the status quo will remain the same. Like pre-2019, when they were importing goods, yours is just to declare the actual value that you bought the goods. If your values are very genuine, are very valid, we will accept it. And if there are any adjustments that we can do to add or subtract from the transaction value that you have given us, then we'll do that and give you a tax base upon which your duty will be calculated. So it is not too different from the pre-2019 era, when the government policy directive came in to introduce this relief just to take away or to reduce the cost of importation by way of helping people to build their businesses and for manufacturers to increase production locally. So,
are there any exceptions to this reversal of the discount on goods?
there's no exception. Everything is being affected, except hitherto the exceptions to the policies were there. Exemptions, these parliamentary exemptions on the ministries, departments and agencies, free, statutory free goods, they were not affected. Free zone goods were not being affected. And diplomatic treatment, all those things, they were not being affected. Temporary importation, re-importation were not being affected. Transit was not being affected. Apart from warehousing, direct import that were being affected, kind of. All other regimes, that is the export, the temporary export, the re-export, the direct import, the temporary import, the re-import, the warehousing, the transshipment, and stores and free zone, where they were not affected.
So now will they all be affected?
I mean to say they did not enjoy.
Okay, they did not benefit from it.
Yes, they did not benefit from it. So it was only the direct import.
Okay.
And they were.
So it's back to square one for everybody.
For everybody.
I mean, obviously there's something in this for you, right? The benefits.
The benefits, like I said, is the policy is a government policy geared towards one, not always thinking of revenue all the time, but also trying to alleviate the plight of the consumers. So if people are complaining about high prices in town, government must be concerned and see what they can do. And like he said, constant engagement with stakeholders will help government to see what policies to bring in place to help the economy. So one of those insights into those meetings were that we should do this discount policy because we cannot go back to, we cannot take ourselves from ECOWAS, we cannot stop using the CET, so we have to do something like this to alleviate the plight of the consumers.
Right.
So the benefit to GRA is twofold. One is revenue will come, and how are we going to be very conscious of our borders and security to be able to protect to prevent leakage.
I have a question on that when you spoke about borders, but we have to take our first caller from Kintampo. Hello, Kingsley. Good morning. Let's hear you.
Yeah, my name is Clinton. Yeah.
Please, let's hear you.
Yeah. I would like to know why somebody has to pay like ×2 or ×3 of the amount used in purchasing a brand new vehicle.
A brand new vehicle or a used vehicle?
Yeah, a brand new vehicle. And is it that there's a fixed price for everybody to pay, or they charge you how much they wish to charge you?
All right, thank you for your question. And if there's another caller, we'll take that caller and then answer the question in batches. But if not, let's just try and respond. I'm sure he just joined the program because it's something we've touched on already. Yes. But briefly, for him, he is wondering why he has to pay more, twice or thrice the amount of goods that a vehicle, right? A brand new vehicle.
Okay. For the brand new vehicle, as I said, we go by the transaction value method where we use the invoices. But if your invoice is tempered, if it's not genuine, we know. Because the others will bring, we have dealers here. Toyota, we have VW, we have Nissan, as Japan Motor, they are all here. So we know the value they bring. So if you bring anything lower, that is why we are there. So if you bring anything lower, we'll have to adjust it accordingly. So that is basically the issue. So if the person thinks that maybe he came and then he paid more, I don't think so. Because we go by a certain standard set. We look at the values, and we have instances where somebody will bring a Prado which costs about 40,000, is quoting 12,000.
Okay. So are you saying here that it is impossible for brand new vehicles for anybody to pay duty above the cost of the vehicle?
No, it's not possible.
For brand new vehicles?
It's never possible.
Okay.
The duties are paid in Ghana cedis. So when you pay in Ghana cedis, no tax is collected in foreign currency. The foreign currency aspect we just use because they manufacture them there, and we cannot cost them here. So you have to use the cost build-up from the country of importation. So when they come here, that's why the exchange rate effect We have to add the freight, calculate the insurance, and then we get our CIF as the tax base, and after that we use the exchange rate to convert to Ghana cedi before we start doing the assessment for the various taxes.
Okay.
And it's in Ghana cedis. So if you bring, I don't think that it's never possible.
Okay.
It's never possible.
We have another caller, Benjamin from Accra. Hello, Benjamin. Let's hear you. Hello, Benjamin.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Please, let's hear you.
Yeah, I want to ask the man who is in charge of vehicle valuation. I want to know why is it that they charge the duties on dollar? Because
no, but he's just said, Benjamin, he's just said they don't do that. They just use that for exchange rates, right? So they give you the cedi.
Yes, taxes are paid in Ghana cedis. No tax is levied in foreign currency. The vehicle you bought was not manufactured in Ghana, so we cannot cost it in Ghana cedis. That's the basis of it. It is. It was manufactured, let's say, in Europe, and all the cost build-up were in Euro. So we cannot sit here and cost it in Ghana cedis. So what we basically do is that we take the cost of it from the country of origin, and then we use our exchange rate to convert into Ghana cedis before we do the assessment for the.
And now too, there are some charges like he said, fire service will charge you. There are some charges that
those ones are not customs.
You add all these charges to the duty, it makes it cost. And we are all in Ghana here now. The business, the way the business is going on in Ghana and at the port, when you go to the port, you all see that it's not going well.
Right, Benjamin.
That's why it's affecting the
point well noted. Thank you very much.
They should have done something for us to at least continue to do the business.
Right.
If we are not there, they are also not there. And if we are not there, we are also not coming.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. But we have established here that all the GRA does is to follow the law. So if there must be any real change, it must happen from the angle of the law. And if Ghanaians really want, for example, the discount policy to still continue, then we must press our MPs to ensure that this is legal, and then the GRA will just implement what the law says. But on the bit,
based on what you said, you see, there are some of the charges which do not have anything to do with customs. Like he's talking about fire service, we have nothing to do with it. If you are talking about shipping line charges, it doesn't have anything to do with customs.
Okay.
So there are other charges apart from the taxes you pay to customs, GRA, that you have to pay, we do not have anything to do with it. Because when you take the bill of entry, you just pay to GRA what you find on the bill of entry. So anything outside that you are paying is not to GRA, but to an agency which you don't have control over.
Mr. Atta, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say that what GRA does after the budget statement is to Commissioner General to come out with a Commissioner General's order. It comes out with what we call Commissioner General's order just to detail the processes, the implementation map for GRA, how we should go about the implementation of the policy directive as stated in the budget. So the only way we come in when it comes to this policy formulation is the implementation, where the Commissioner General will study the budget statement and outline the various steps and processes that we as GRA staff can use to apply and achieve our goals.
Okay, we have our last caller for now, Raphael. Hello, Raphael, let's hear you.
Hello, good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, madam.
Raphael, please listen to me on your phone. If you listen on the television, there will be a delay. So please go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Good morning, madam.
Raphael, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. It's like I heard a vehicle valuation man saying that 2010 Corolla, the tax value on 2010 Corolla will be the same as the tax value on 2018 Corolla.
No, that's not what, no, we've not said that here. What the example that I cited was on the used vehicles and why they do not compute the duties based on how much you bought it. And he said, for fairness sake, if I bought a used vehicle, which is at 2,000 cedis, and another person bought the same brand, same model at 1,500 cedis, we will not say because you bought it at 1,500 cedis, pay this. We look at what the dealership or the manufacturer costs the vehicle and make the computation on that basis.
Okay, I understand, but even in that angle, I think that it is wrong because the luxurious aspect and the value of the vehicle at that moment, they are not the same. And it's like, even in spite of all these differences in tax, people are still bringing in the used vehicle to pay equivalent tax on like the new one. So what you should ask himself, why people are still, in spite of all these differences, why are still people bringing a used vehicle? Because of the income capacity of the country. So if the policy makers are making certain decisions, they have to be realistic to the people of the country, because this is totally unfair. Because how many people can afford? Let us be realistic. How many people can afford? New vehicle will be able to based on our income. So it's like, if this is what is happening, it is totally unfair. They have to review their policy. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you as well.
If I can explain further. When we take the value, the manufacturer's suggested retail price, because it is a used vehicle, it is depreciated. So we don't just use the value when we take it. In the law, it is spelled out that for vehicles which are up to 6 months, they are considered, they are valued as if they are new. So you don't get depreciation on it. If beyond 6 months, up to 1.5 months, we give a 15% depreciation. So if it's beyond 1.5 years, up to 2.5 years, we give 30%.
Right.
2.5 years, up to 5 years, we get 40%. And then beyond 5 years, it's 50%. So the values, as we apply them, look at the age. Because if somebody brings a vehicle, the customs officer cannot determine whether the engine is faulty or not. So that is why there was a parameter of age, so that after the age is so easy. When we take the chassis number, we know the age. Nobody can manipulate that. You understand? So the public should understand that the law is made to satisfy everybody and not to satisfy a particular individual. Say that when you do that, you are going to manipulate, people manipulate the system. But when it is made to satisfy everybody, the manipulations are different. You bring a vehicle and then the special features are not the same. Corolla, basic. Those days we had C, we had LE, we had S. Somebody goes in for S. He knows why he's going because he sees the alloy wheels, isn't it? He goes in and the transmission bar is shining. He goes into LE, it's not the same.
Leather seats.
Leather interior. You see it. All this go into the value. The manufacturer puts this into the value. So you see value difference, even though you have a Highlander, somebody has a Highlander, his is LE, yours is XLE. There's a reason why it's XLE, because there are features built in it. Some have DVD, others don't have. A manufacturer, when he does it, these are add-ons. You add to the cost. So the value will be high. So if you are going to buy and you don't understand these dynamics, you come and say, oh, Kofi brought this same vehicle and you pay this, and I paid. You understand? So we should understand that when you go and see the vehicle, it's, oh, I want the leather interior, I want air conditioning, I want...
It's all part of the cost building.
Part of the cost.
Right. Mr. Ataba, you want to say something before I bring Dr. Joseph
I think he has stated them. I wrote them somewhere. He stated them. That is the same type of car, the same year, the same age, the same capacity. Like he's saying, they have different features. You see them packed together, but you go to each of them, you see some differences. Those differences, like he's saying, account for the additional prices or cost values. That is added on. Therefore, the duty of one will be different from the other.
Right. Let me now bring in Dr. Joseph Obing, President of GUTA. Good morning to you. Hope you're having a good time this holiday season.
Hello.
Hello, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I said, hope you're having a good time this holiday season.
Yeah, I was just resting.
And business and how's business? Usually at this time of the year, we know that even though times are hard, people will try to squeeze a little here and there and buy a few items to celebrate the season.
Yeah, because life must continue. life must continue. So people manage to do what they have to do. So there was a sales, I must say, yeah.
Right. So this issue of the GRA reversing discounts on import values and on goods and vehicles from the 1st of January, we understand that this was done in consultation with organizations like yours and the AGI. So what exactly convinced you to, if I may use the word, buy into the idea of reversing this policy?
Yeah, I think let's put the whole valuation system into place for people to understand. The valuation system that we have here is quite confusing in that when you look at the WTO laws, there's nothing like benchmark values. The valuation system, the first call is the transactional value. And this transactional value has been a subject of argument always between us, the traders or the importers, and the customs. Because people have different ways of sourcing their goods. People buy bulk quantities to get reduction. People buy directly from manufacturers. People buy from agents. People buy from even shops. And so values cannot be the same, understandably. And so if somebody brings a legitimate transaction value, then of course that's what the WTO laws says that you should use for the valuation. But normally the customs have been suspicious that we temper with our values. And it's true that some of us also temper with our values. But the way to solve it is what have brought the confusion, and that's the benchmark values. It's a set of values that customs have brought and set against our own values. And most times, their values are very, very high, and that has brought a lot more agitation because they do not conform with the values, the actual transactional values that we have. So it's not that government have reduced duties. No, duties have never been reduced for anybody. The duty rates are the same. Cumulatively, we pay duties between 55% to 65%, depending on the duty that you are paying. If it is 20%, it cumulates to about 55%. If it's 35% dutiable item, you accumulate to about 65%. So let's establish that.
Doc, sorry to interject. Sorry to interject. If I get you right, you're saying that the discount policy was of no value because of the benchmark policy that was also being run alongside it?
Exactly. The benchmark value normally they should treat our transactional values, and because of suspicion, they always want to rely on their own set of values. And this set of values that they have is what have been bringing the agitations, confusion, controversies at the port all the time. If you see us arguing with customs because they have set their values over and above what our values are. So the reduction in this benchmark value is when we have a complaint to government that duties are high, because benchmark values are also high. the duty rates itself are very high. So we have gone that government should reduce the duty rates. And then government, out of its own wisdom, said that, okay, the benchmark values that you people have been arguing all the time should be considered. And that's why we came to struck average on the benchmark value, and they gave us 50%. And later, they reduced to 30%, and in the case of cars, 10%. And now, because AGI have put up an argument and lobbied government that importation have become so cheap, imported goods have become so cheap, and that it has rendered them useless in the competition. And so if government wants industrialization to thrive, and then they have to remove totally the benchmark values. And that's why we have reached this level, that government have bought into the argument of AGI that because of the benchmark reduction, they are uncompetitive, and that we should make everything possible for imported goods to become extremely high so that they can have their way. And so this is how the background is.
So if I get you, you are not really in agreement with this reversal of discounts on goods and vehicles?
Yeah, if you are taking this benchmark reversal policy, then we have to go strictly to the transactional values. They have to respect our transactional values. But it's not that if customs want their revenue, they increase their benchmark. Benchmark means you are just using it as a cross-check mechanism. And that is not sacrosanct. It's not something that is made out of metal jacket that you cannot say that you are considering the transactional value. And that's what the WTO allows. There's nothing like benchmark at all. And so if they are taking the discount away, it means that you are not going to have any fair balance as regards with the benchmark values, because then they have to resort to our transactional values. And this is what the argument should be. Otherwise, if they continue to increase arbitrarily their benchmark, what they use to cross-check our values, whether it is high or not, then we have to abide by that. And so whenever customs need more revenue, then it doesn't got any factory, it doesn't produce anything, and then it just increase price. And for what goes, because we do not sit down to make the prices together. And so if they use their discretion to make these prices and then benchmark against your transactional value, it means that your transactional value is useless. And that's what is required by WTO. And so what has brought the argument is the non-respect or regard of the transactional value. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come this far. Because when we met government, we have gone to government that the values that we pay for duties are very high, and that it cumulates to about over 55%. If you bring goods worth of $100,000, you have to pay $55,000 at your duty. And this is what we have told government. So duty rates were not even affected. Duty rates, government did not reduce for us. But the benchmark, the tool of cross-checking our values, that customs have overly increased it. And that has been the contention, and that has been the argument that we are having with customs. That's what government said, that then you should reduce your benchmark. So this is the story.
All right, Doc, so there's another suggestion that...
Thank you.
There was... hello, Doc, are you there? Hello, Doc? Well, I think we lost Doc there. Okay. Hello, Doc?
No, I can't hear.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Hello, Doc. Can you hear me now?
Please, I can't hear you.
All right. We'll try and reconnect to Doc and get... So, I mean,
I can hear you, please.
All right. If you can hear me, I'd just like you to briefly respond to this for me. The suggestion is that the discount policy was introduced so that it could trickle down to the consumer. So the importer will not have to pay so much so that he will not run the cost onto the consumer, and the consumer will get a bit of relief. The suggestion here is that the consumers did not really benefit from this policy. What will your response to that be?
Yeah.
Right, we seem to have a problem with Doc's line that will rectify it.
Respond to.
So yes, let me come to you first, Mr. Tagba. So he says that, look, this whole discount thing, and he agrees, just that he cites a different reason than what you cited. Yeah. So we all agree that, look, the discount policy was to achieve something, but it didn't achieve it for him because the benchmark value system and the discount policy were running concurrently. He claims that the customs put the benchmark values very high, and so by the time you are enjoying the discount, you have to pay for it because of benchmark valuation.
I was expecting you to kind of correct him by the misuse of the benchmark.
So I asked him, and that's why you're here, and your official response has weight than mine. Yes. That's why you're here. So the issue of, because while he was interacting, I wasn't too sure whether he was using benchmark and discount interchangeably, yes. And that's why I clarified with him on the use of them concurrently.
But he came in by saying that the benchmark, the hitherto called benchmark values are to be used to cross-check their values. If I want to know from him, apart from the transactional value method, the WTO equally has other 5 methods that must be applied. Why do they exist? Those other 5, method 2, method 3, method 4, method 5, method 6. The transactional value is the method 1. That is, if all documents are genuine, everything seems to be correct, verifiable, then we can apply that. Then if you cannot, by Article 17, if you cannot, or by the Risk Management Unit, detecting, using Section 3 of our Act, 2015, Act 891, if the Risk Management Unit comes out to say, there are so many deviations when it comes to the valuation of same products from different importers. You have 10 importers importing the same product, but have different values, very big variations in their valuations. What do you do as an authority? And our motto, our vision is to be fair, uniform, and neutral to the trading public. So if you see that, as an authority, are you going to sit down and not align or verify why this one is declaring lower value and this one is declaring higher value? Don't forget, we have whistleblowers, we have competitors that come to us with informations that this person is selling his item in a shop at a price like this, but I cannot sell mine like that. Why is that so? We need to verify. So the risk management unit put down those details and try to go into the system, verify by searching on other sites and even checking from the exporter himself or the manufacturer to find out by way of just requesting window shopping, how much do you sell this? And it comes out clear that the value is different. We are talking of real-time values. Real-time values are what must be presented to us. But what we see most times are varying values. The same importer can buy something a week ago at $5. Then the same importer will bring it at $1. Very big difference. So you need to investigate that. The benchmark value, as he's calling it, we don't use it for what he is thinking, but he has corrected himself by saying we use it to cross-check. It's just a guide. It's a risk assessment tool that we internally have as a database. And the WTO requires of us to build database to manage our system. It is required of every member nation to have a database. For instance, if Cote d'Ivoire is having a lot of re-export from Ghana, you import goods into Ghana and it's going to Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire, as why are you not coming directly to me? Why is this? Or there's something, you know, everybody wants to cut corners, or they want to see where they can achieve lower cost of importation. So all these things, we have to gauge ourselves, guide ourselves, use them as yardstick. We don't use them as he said, emphatically, we don't use them. We just use it to guide and even monitor and control our staff so that staff A cannot give a different value from staff B.
Right. So this the discount that has been reversed, the benchmark policy still exists, right?
That policy, like I said, the benchmark, there's nothing like benchmark policy.
Oh. Okay.
What we have is reference price lists.
Okay.
Okay.
You said that the last time
yes,
you came.
Reference price lists that we use, like we said, if the risk management unit detects that somebody is declaring too low a value, the attention must be brought to us that this one, you have to watch your valuation. And like I said, we have to be fair, uniform, and neutral to everybody, irrespective of whoever. That is why sometimes we have to check your relationship with your exporter, the multinational enterprises, the malls, the bigger shops you see in town. Are they having branches or subsidiaries here that have parent companies abroad so that they just give them any price on the invoice to give to us by that under declaring? You get it? So we check all those things to ensure uniformity and fairness. In the system.
We have Dr. Joseph Obin back on, but we've also been joined by Seth Chumakwabwa, Executive Secretary of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. So, Mr. Chumakwabwa, I want to believe the AGI is excited by this. Dr. Obin has said that your association has lobbied because your claim is that because of the policy, the discount policy, it creates unnecessary competition, especially for industries here that are producing similar products that are being imported into the country. Your quick response to that?
I don't know what he's calling by lobbying. This is not an open secret. Right from the very day that the benchmark discount value was announced, AGI condemned it. We thought that it was not the best of policy to come into being at the time. And we've been very open about it. There have been open discussions. And we've engaged several times together with GUTA on this issue. Ministry of Finance has called us. We've met at EMT. There have been several occasions that we've met, that they have also been part of it. And our issues have been very clear right from day one. We've made presentations with figures, with facts, indicating the effect of the benchmark value reduction on industries. So this is not open secret at all. It's something that we stand by it, and we think that it wasn't the best of arrangement for promoting local industries. Government says we want to go industrialization, so we are introducing one district, one factory. We are making every effort to improve industrialization, and at the same time, we bring a policy that makes industries suffer, because you make the imports much cheaper than local industries. So that's where we had the problem with. Let me also clarify one thing, that AGI advocacy was never to ask for a reversal of the benchmark value or discount values on all products. When we look at the customs statistics, we import more than 6,000 different products into this country. AGI selected about 48. That's what we agreed with government. About 48 of them, we think that we have local manufacturers. We have some local capacity to produce these products. Even if it's not 100%, we have significant capacity. And the capacity can be easily increased to produce all of them. And therefore, those are the products we're targeting. And we said, if government wants to reduce discount values for those other products, we have no problem. It's between government and its citizens. If today, government says you are bringing in items that you are not producing locally, and you don't pay any duty at all, it's zero rated, we have no problem with it. But what we thought was unfair was the fact that you have local producers producing manufactured products, bringing them into the market. Conditions for production hasn't changed. Electricity cost has not changed. Cost of capital hasn't changed. When you go to borrow from a bank, you still pay the high interest cost. Nothing has changed. And suddenly, you reduce the benchmark values which made it possible for them to reduce the duty payment by about 50%. So naturally, you make the imported products much cheaper than the locally produced product. And therefore, the local products were suffering in the market. This is a very simple thing that everybody understands. Bear in mind also that we also have what we call the CET values, the CET arrangement with the ECOWAS Common External Tariff. So we have a common tariff within ECOWAS. We didn't alter that because that wouldn't have been acceptable by ECOWAS. So what we did was that they reduced the benchmark values. And as was explained by the customs officials, the benchmark value that we are talking about is just a guide. It is when there is dispute. In actual fact, when it was introduced, some of us explained that it is not going to be a complete reduction because normally how they apply it is that when you declare your values, and they think that the value you have declared is not consistent with the value they have in their books, or they think your values are maybe too low to enable you to pay lower duty, then they look at what they call the benchmark values, like the targeted value. So they look at it as a guide. If it is way, way below, then they say, no, let's apply what the standard rate is. And that is what the benchmark value is. So we thought that if it was going to be even applied, it will happen in circumstances where the values you have declared are in dispute. When it's in dispute, then they use it as a guide. When it's not in dispute, you pay the right values. But that's not what happened. What actually happened was that when the benchmark value discount was introduced, it virtually reduced all the duties by half. So it wasn't so much of what you have declared. It was the standard rate that was used and then reduced by half. So basically, the duty rates came down by about 50%. And that's what we thought was unfair because it was affecting local industries. And you know that in recent times when we had a challenge with COVID, and even this year, we've had all these challenges with the importation of goods, it's local industries that everybody's talking about. That why don't we produce some of the essential products in adequate quantities, in volumes, to feed our country? If you continue to rely on imports, when those other countries are shutting down, what are you going to do? So we want to encourage local production. And therefore, reversing it, for me, is the right thing to do.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that our focus was on about 48 products that we have local capacity to produce. For the rest, it's up to government. If Buta want to argue on the rest, we have no problem with them. But those that we are producing locally, we think it's unfair to reduce the benchmark values by 50%. And if government today says it's reversing it, then it should be understandable.
Mr. Kwabwa, I'm really excited that you spoke about the specific goods that you wanted government to reverse this policy on, because my next question to you was going to be, do you have the capacity to produce or compete with the importation sector with regards to all the items that are brought into this country? So I'm happy that you clarified that. But moving forward, how are you hoping to take advantage of this? Because even in your earlier response, you mentioned that even in some cases, you may not be able to produce to your fullest capacity, but you can produce at least to a certain percentage that can meet the demand. So how are you hoping to take advantage of this policy or the reversal of this policy?
Okay, when it comes to the capacity issues, it's always very important to discuss it because people take it out of context. Capacities are not built overnight. Capacities are not built in vacuum. You build capacity based on market demand. You cannot say that, let me increase capacity and produce large volumes. When the market is not taking it, how are you going to sell your products? So as you create market conditions that enable people to consume local products, then as the consumption continues to grow, then you also increase capacity. So that's how it is. So when they say capacity, you cannot build capacity overnight and produce the goods and store it. It doesn't happen like that. No business person or industry will do that. In any case, there are some of the products that we actually have excess capacity. And I can give you a few examples. If you take the oils, for example, just two companies, their capacity for producing edible oil, the frito and the rest, it is actually when you put the two companies together, even 50% of their total production cannot even be consumed by the Ghanaian market. They must actually export to be able to stay in business. So there's excess capacity. Take the cables. We have 3 cable companies in Ghana that are all ISO certified. Today, they are all struggling. If you give them the opportunity and the market condition is there, they can flood the market with their total capacity and we'll have no problem. Take some like even basic thing like machetes. We have a company in Tema that produces they are now producing about let's say 40% capacity. If you don't bring any machete in, they can go to 100%, and there's no way even Ghana can take all the machete they will produce. So there are several products that we have excess capacity. Others we may have just adequate. Others we have below capacity. But even when we don't have adequate capacity, you grow it. But you create conditions where the market is becoming difficult for the producers. There's no way they will increase the capacity. So create conditions, create environment that makes the local production less cheaper and more competitive in the market, and then you grow the capacity, taking advantage of it. Yes, as we are, this is not a new thing. It's not a new introduction. It's just a reversal to the status quo, or where it was before several years ago. So, if you will say taking advantage of it, with this situation, expectation is that the local industries will become more competitive. For that reason, there will be growth in demand for their products. And if there is growth in demand for their products, naturally, they will expand to take advantage of it. So that's how we build capacity and take advantage of market conditions. We have to create the market conditions. To grow, we need to create jobs. We have so many people coming out of this country, coming out of our universities. Over 200,000 people are coming out of our universities. Where are they going to get the jobs? As industries and agriculture, when you link them properly, that's where the jobs are created. So it's very important that we bear some of these principles in mind and grow our industries and help create the jobs that we need. So capacity can be easily built.
Right. Let me come back to you, Dr. Joseph Obey, and thank you for reconnecting. So you've just had Mr. Akwaba say that for them, it wasn't all the about 6,000 products that were important to this country that they were concerned about. Just about 44 of them, leaving about 5,950. So what will it mean for consumers with regards to this? Are you going to fight to have the discount on those other products that are not part of the AGI selection? What exactly are you going to do?
Yeah. Really, we support the growth of the local industries. And I think if we have to do this to support them, why not? Now we are going to look from within and then outsource some of these things from the locally made. If so, they are not competitive. We are not bound to buy locally. And so the onus lies on them to find what they have comparative advantage and produce, because we are in a global village, and that they cannot always say that importation should be stopped so that they can have their way. So we support them in this regard, and that what the government should have done is to select the item that is actually produced here and then give this a reversal, complete reversal, and leave the others. But once they've lumped them together, what that government wants to do, because of our quest for industrialization, is to make importation expensive so that the local industries can thrive. So definitely prices will trickle down, because then we would have succeeded making importation expensive. And so definitely this will trickle down to the consuming public. Don't forget that we have VAT also to contend with, and it's also starting at the beginning of the year. Means that cost of doing business is going to go up, and for us traders, we have to pass on these costs to the consuming public. And the little gain that we got from the stability of the city, I'm afraid, might be tempered with. And so if we want to mitigate the plight of the consuming public, I think the best way to have gone is to select these items, as my brother Akwaba was saying, so that they do the complete reversal. And then those that we do not have total capacity to produce here, will get some respite, so that the consuming public will also can better their lot, because their purchasing power has been seriously affected over the past couple of months. At the same time, we support local industries, but the onus lies on them to deliver. We are going to take on them. We are going to look from within and see if they can supply, because we are not bound to import only from outside, and that it will be in our own interest if the local industry tries, so that we do not have to contend with duty payment and all that.
Right.
And that we just buy from within. And then the nation will also boost in terms of productivity.
Finally, for you, Dr. Obing, earlier you said that you couldn't see the impact of this discount policy, and so consumers had to naturally pay for more. And you've just spoken about VAT, which will also start in 2023. Clearly, we know that there will be some increase, but should it be such that it will be burdensome, or we should expect something quite insignificant?
You see, our component of costing, the major ones are foreign exchange. That's the rate at which we buy the dollar. And then the second one is duty. So if these two factors are affected, then definitely it will also affect our pricing. The duties, as it were, is going to go up about over 40% because of the reversal of the benchmark, and then the contribution of VAT in the duty payment. So we are not expecting less than 40% increment, and that will be transferred to the consuming public, no doubt about that.
Right. So back to the studio. I've still got Mr. Jaimi and Mr. Ataba in the studio with me, all with the customs division of the GRA. So, Mr. Ataba, your quick response, final words?
Yes, to Mr. Dr. Obing, I want to say that the benchmark, so-called benchmark values, as stated by you, just cover about 500 products. Like you said, internationally traded commodities about 6,000 and above in the HS. We cover just about 500. That was before the current one. And now we've expanded it, but the same product, just that we have different technologies of different products of the same type. So we needed to expand them to cover. So out of 6,000, and we are covering just 500. So not every product is being affected, so-called affected, by this reference price list. Not at all. And don't forget, when government wants to draw budget, they come to customs. How much has been imported? What values are given? Statistical Services Department. All these people come for data. In compiling this data, I'm going to be giving different values, especially to the highly tradable commodities, like rice, sugar, those things. You give this, you give this. When you can actually look for the real-time values internationally in the market, you get it. So we have not covered all products. We've just covered a few of them, 500. And to their surprise, about 100 of the previous ones have been reduced. The values were up there. We give a markdown of the ones recently reviewed.
That is on the reference price list?
Yes, the reference price list. About 100 of them, their prices have been reviewed downwards.
Okay.
Some have been maintained, some have been raised, just to guide us. You get it? And the WTO requires of us to build database. Every 90 days, we are supposed to go and sanitize our database that we have. So it is not out of law that we just do.
So something just came to mind. So we all know, so it's been put in the news generally, the GRA has reversed discount on importation of values of goods and vehicles. But here you're just saying that sometimes in the reference prices, some prices values are adjusted downwards. Is there a way for the public to verify, or is there a way GRA itself or customs itself goes into the markets? Because you see, this is a blanket statement that we've made. So in the minds of the public, there's no longer discount, so we expect that when we go to the market, we'll pay more. Is there a way you monitor to ensure that, look, this reference price list indicates this has reduced, so you're selling this a bit too high than... How do you ensure that businesses are not taking undue advantage?
There's one valuation method called the deductive value method. That is valuation method 5. That you have to go to the market, ask for the price of what a trader is selling his goods. You take out his profit margin and all those things. You check his books to ensure that some of the expenses and all those things that are deducted to arrive at the tax base, at the unit price. And to our surprise, if we want to go by what is sold in town, the unit values will be so high. The unit values will be so high. So we do not regularly use that method because it is not beneficial to them. What we do is to check from the exporter's end how much this thing is costing from the same country around the same time, or check somebody who has equally imported the same thing, similar product, identical product, around the same time. Then we use those, and we use the minimum of those values just to guide us.
So we should expect that there will, even on the market in terms of pricing, there will be fairness, because we know that when there's a blanket statement like that, people expect that, well, all goods and services must increase, right?
But other indicators like the exchange rate.
That's why I'm asking. How do you? So that's why I'm asking. How do you ensure?
We understand his plight. In fact, he pays higher duty, Mr. Obi, when it comes to his products, electrical products, very, very high, in billions. Sometimes I wonder where they get the money to pay some of these things. And when you go to the market and they are mentioning prices, if you know about the duties they pay, you will not be surprised about their unit prices in the market.
Okay, so now the discount policy has been reversed, but the reference price list will still be there as a way of ensuring that there's fairness in the system, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your final words, we are wrapping up in a minute.
To add to what you said, you see, if you are doing investigation, you can't do it in a vacuum. So this reference price list is there to guide what we do. Because if you are going to say A has brought a commodity, the price is not reasonable, you should have a basis. So that is why it is kept such that even with the method 6 fallback,
yeah.
It's supposed to be, so when people say customs reduces values, it is not so. We have the methods you go through. So every method, apart from the first, even the first one, there are adjustments. We need to add the freight and other things. Yeah. So the methods comes with certain adjustments. So that is what people don't get. They don't understand why a value have to be adjusted in a certain way. But it's just following the methods as spelled out by WTO, because there are elements you need to add, there are elements you need to take out.
Okay. So just one quick last one. Earlier you mentioned that you do these valuation based on how much is quoted by the person who produces, most of the time outside the country. Do you use the exchange rate at the time of importation or at the time the goods arrive at the port?
At the time, okay, the way it works, if your vessel arrives today, the exchange rate from Bank of Ghana, the one that comes out on Mondays, the interbank rate, so we apply it the following Tuesday up to the following Monday. So it takes 1 week. So it's stable for a week.
So it's not when I imported, say now the interbank exchange rate is about 8 cedi per dollar. What is it?
It's not when you import, it's the arrival.
It's when it arrives. Okay, thank you so much. There's a lot to discuss, but time won't permit us, and I know that you have a lot of questions. Hopefully when we go into the new year, we'll have Mr. Yadaimi, who is Supervisor Vehicle Valuation at the CTSB. And Bilson Jada Batagba, who is also supervisor at the CTSB headquarters. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And we wish you the best of the rest of the year and a happy new year in advance. Also to Seth Chuma Papua, Executive Secretary, Association of Ghana Industries, and Dr. Joseph Obeng, who is President of GUTA. Thank you for joining the program. Well, next up, we have a conversation on the law challenge. You want to stay for that? Do stay. And it's exciting as it gets. It's the Law Challenge Season 3, which will start on January 1, 2023. It's exciting, it's challenging. If you love the law, not necessarily, you know, just wanting to be a lawyer, but if you love the law, if you love to see people debate, people show their understanding of the bedrock of who we are. We just spoke to the GRA and we concluded that many of the issues you complain about are legally binding. So if you want them to change, you need to speak to your MPs to get the law to change. So the law is everything for us. And this morning I've been joined by Miss Agatha Roxon. She is a lecturer, a law lecturer at the University of Lancaster, or Lancaster University, Ghana, and King's University College. And she's a lawyer in Ghana and the UK. That must be really exciting.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Nice meeting you too. Dennis.
Right, so the Law Challenge, what about it interests you?
I love the part that it's actually a healthy rivalry between the smartest law students in Ghana and also the law faculties in Ghana coming together to try and educate the public on some basic principles of the law, which is quite lacking at the moment in Ghana. Yeah.
So tell us what this is all about. You've mentioned the different faculties, yes. But how exactly does the quiz happen? What are the modalities?
Okay, so all faculties in Ghana are initially invited to join the contest, the Law Challenge contest. And then the individual faculty, law faculties actually, the individual law faculties go and do their own selection for their smartest students. However, they won't go through it, but it's quite rigorous because all the students that come on board are really smart, as in they are really good with the law, abreast with the law, which is what we need. So once they select their students, then they register online and get the organizing committee, which I am part of, to actually go through the administration process with them. And then we kick off with a individual context between two universities, and then we go through the final one. But there are some twists and turns for this new season.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so with the third season, the Law Challenge contest has actually reached its third season, and we have actually included or incorporated the full moot court contest.
That it will be fun.
So that is like law at practice insertion. You have the real life judge, court of appeal judge insertion and everything. So once a judge sits, the whole environment becomes a courtroom, and you have to actually go by the court procedures and the civil procedure rules as well as the court rules. So it's quite interesting and exciting.
So the contestants will, definitely there will be a case to look at. There will be
a moot case, yes.
Okay, there will be a defendant.
Yes.
And there will be...
It depends, so we can have an applicant, a defendant, or a complainant, a respondent, an appellant, a respondent, because that was a court of appeal case. So that will be an appellant and then a respondent.
All right.
Because you are appealing at the court of appeal.
Great, you're right. I think I need to stay.
These are all the technical terms.
So if I were to be competing in this, you would be marking the terms I'm even using, right? So right from the procedure, the terminologies, everything will be marked.
Yes.
But that will be very interesting to watch, to see how these...
And the judge did that. The judge actually commented and said, I need you to speak the law.
Okay.
And that is what we mean when you're in the courtroom. There's nothing like streetwise talk in courtroom or in law.
Interesting.
So when I'm even lecturing my students, I tell them, I need you to speak like a law student.
Yeah, okay. I get that. But our quiz master, Samson Ladia Yenine, our very own host of News File. And Samson started as a broadcast journalist, and he's such a fine lawyer now. Tell us...
Who knows? You will go in there.
Oh, well, let's see how it works. It won't be a bad idea, would it? I can be in your shoes, be a lawyer in Ghana and the UK and every other place I want to practice. Yeah. But tell us about Samson, how he handles this, what he brings on board.
He's brilliant. I mean, he's got a flair with the law as well. He actually knows the law. He already has a show that he does on a weekly basis. We relate to the law, so he's actually good. And he relates well with the students, which is very important. And because he's also very popular, it helps with the whole contest as well.
Right, kudos to you, Samson. And we will see how you you moderate this session, especially with the students, starting January 1, 2023. The time is 2 p.m. Okay, it will be on a Sunday. I know that many of you would have gone to church, but just relax and watch how. I'm just looking forward to the moot court session. Would it happen in every contest, or it will happen at the concluding part of the season?
So it will only be the final section of it. That is where we have the first and the last law faculties competing for the final position. So that's where the final spot, that's where the moot court will come. So that is the final stage of it.
Yeah.
It's good actually, because then it helps you to actually understand from the beginning to the end how it is dealt with. Yes.
Beyond the moot court session for this season, there's something else.
Yes.
Which is about how you're interacting with the students. Tell us more about it.
Okay, so again, we have this new procedure that we're doing, or we've incorporated from this season, and that is actually taking the law contest to the doorsteps of the students by allowing them to actually host the contest in each university. And GIMPA was the first one to actually host this contest this season. So following on, we've actually gotten a lot of offers from the other faculties to try and host the fourth season as well as the preceding, like the continuing seasons.
Okay, so this whole session was at the GIMPA Law School, but you're hoping to move to another faculty of a different university another time. This must be really costly. Tell us how you're going about it, and definitely there's something that drives you to do this. If you understand TV production, you know that this is not a mean thing to achieve at all. How are you able to pull resources together, and what are you looking forward to in terms of sponsorship as well?
So thanks to Joy FM and JoyNews, who have come on board to be one of our main partners, actually the partner with this season. We're hoping to gather a lot more sponsors to support us. But currently we have sponsors such as Goal Ghana and other sponsors that, just to name a few, but we are really looking forward to getting a lot of corporate partners and a lot of corporate organizations to support us. We are currently in the negotiation with APSA Ghana, and we are hoping that other banks, financial institutions, and also corporate institutions like Despite Media and the rest will all support us financially, because as you said, Bernice, it does cost a lot. And I don't know how Reverend Ankara is doing it, but from my perspective, as a UK trained lawyer, we've always incorporated pro bono work in our field of profession. And coming into Ghana, I realized that there's that legal awareness gap in terms of legal education to the general public. So when I realized, or I felt that I needed to support, and this opportunity came along, I was very eager to actually come on board the organizing committee to support it and make law a bit more open to the general public, because I feel a country that has knowledge in law is always we get citizens that are very law-abiding, in terms of they are aware of the law, the basic principles of law, which is lacking at the moment in basically in our basic and secondary schools. I did my secondary school here, and I really didn't know a lot about the 1992 Constitution, Mary's.
Oh, St. Mary's, that's nice.
So it's very important that we get that concept, at least that basic concept for our children, our young future leaders.
How do we do that? How do we ensure that, like you're saying, basic law, people just understand something that can just keep us going as a people?
Exactly. So, for instance, this is a typical example of how you learn the law. So, an ordinary Ghanaian will not come to me as a legal person to come and ask me, what are the essential elements of a contract before I enter a contract? They would have to come to my chambers or my law firm and all that. But when you actually watch this program, you'll be able to learn some of the basic elements of contract, which is very important before you even go into any contractual agreements with anybody. You need to know all these, that you've got the elements the valid elements in place before you even sign any contract or basic contract, be it oral or in writing. And these are examples of ways that you can actually learn the law, the basic principles of the law. And it's very important that you watch it with your kids as well, because then the kids get to learn all these.
Yeah,
I'll be watching it with my kids.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that you mentioned the contract, because my mom, who finished school a very long time ago, can still define what a contract is. And she defines it legally. Yes. I cannot define it legally. So then it also comes to the point of education and how we can make it. And you don't necessarily need to understand law because you want to be a lawyer. For my communication course at GIJ, I did ethics in journalism, which had to do with law. So I understand, okay, libel, I understand all those other things that come with my profession in regards to the law. And so I think that it's just interesting that it needs to go
incorporate it
down to.
We need to incorporate the basic ones in. So business, for instance, do business law. I lecture business law at Webster University as well. So you incorporate those basic concepts of law in certain areas, but it's only at the tertiary institution, and it's when you actually enter the tertiary institution. But we need to incorporate it right from the outset. So be it at the junior secondary or senior secondary, just incorporating it will help a lot.
I love that you do this. And Miss Agatha Roxon, she is a lawyer in Ghana in the UK, and she lectures at the Lancaster University and the King's University College here in Ghana. What's the biggest dream for you?
My biggest dream coming back to Ghana is to actually see a lot of our citizens being abreast with the law and also trying to work in a way that is according to the law. And as you said earlier on with your visitors or interviewers,
the guests,
yes, the guests that came on, they were on about GRA. And GRA is revenue law. You need to tax law. And it's very important that we know all these areas as well. Not to learn it to be able to practice it, but to be able to actually apply it in your daily works, wherever you find yourself. And I hope we can actually do more of these legal awareness for our citizens to be able to be abreast with the law.
And so
and help the courts actually, because then the courts will not have tons of cases trying to deal with it, or even giving the
yeah, you're right. Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because then before going into a contract, it would be problematic. You would have seen it before and had known, I don't need to do that. Okay, so lawyer Agatha Roxon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you too.
And we wish you all the best, trying to further your influence across the world. And
one more thing, if anybody wants to, or any organizations want to sponsor us, we are happy for you to contact Joy News, or you can also contact my colleague, Reverend Ankara. I'll leave his phone number with Bernice, and so if you contact Joy News or Joy FM, you'll be able to get that. And or even go on the Law Challenge website, as well as the Facebook. We've got it on Facebook, and send us a shout or a message to say that you are happy for, you want to sponsor us, because we really need to sponsorship. We need more sponsorship for us to be able to continue the sustainability of this contest.
Right. Thank you so much once again, Ms. Agatha Roxon. They're telling us about the Law Challenge Season 3, which starts this Sunday. It's the 1st of January 2023 at 2 p.m. Your quizmaster is Samson Ladi Anyanene. Well, we get interactive with you right after this. Do stay. Today we've spoken about quite a number of things, but also we'll be asking you to assess your best minister and the worst for this year. Do stay for that. So much for staying on the AM show. Water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions: 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jar for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake purified drinking water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casa Preco. For bulk purchase, please call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved. Now, before we get interactive with you, let's just bring you the continuing part of that conversation my colleague Mama Owusu-Abuaje had with Supreme Court Judge Professor Henrietta Mensa-Bonsu.
National assignment was not what you think, but as a member of the legal committee of the National Commission on Children,
right,
I represented Ghana on the Intergovernmental Committee of Experts on the Declaration of Welfare, the Rights and Welfare of the African Child.
Right.
So that was when I stood out as a Ghanaian.
Right.
To represent the interests of Ghana and the Ghanaian child. And that committee, that legal committee did a lot. We initiated the conversations on child abuse and child labor and all of those things in the early 90s, and interacted with the new district assemblies to draw their attention to the plight of children in their district assemblies. And I'm sure it's no surprise to you that Ghana was the first to ratify the rights of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We had a lot to do with that.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So that was the first assignment, really, on behalf of the children of Ghana. Yes.
Right. Well, thanks to you, we've come a long way. But you also went on to be on the National Reconciliation Committee. In fact, you were the youngest member then to be on the commission.
They nicknamed me Baby Commissioner.
How did you do it, really? You're a professor at the age of 45. You were on all these important commissions and committees. How do you think that happened for you?
What happened was when I was tapped for it, I was a little nervous. Incidentally, the president now was the Attorney General who called me to a sudden meeting, and I had just come home from representing Ghana on the Lockerbie, the OAU committee on Lockerbie. So I thought that was what the Attorney General wanted to report to Cabinet about, because he said he needed to see me. He was going to Cabinet. So I thought he was going to report on Ghana's position on Lockerbie. So I took all the extra reports, thinking that maybe what I submitted through the ministry hadn't reached him. And I got there and he said, the president says to tell you that you should serve on this committee. I said, no, I'm too young. And he said, well, President Kufuor thinks the young people of Ghana also need to be represented. Because I thought it was for very senior people. So that's how I got on. And that told me that the nature of it was going to be difficult to combine with anything. So I took a sabbatical. I was due for a sabbatical anyway, but had not planned to take it. But when that happened, then I applied formally to take a sabbatical. So I was on sabbatical leave for the period.
Right.
But I had to teach because we were short-staffed. So I did extra teaching just to keep things going at the faculty. But I was on sabbatical leave officially.
Right. One of the important committees, I guess, would be the education review, of which you're a member of. And I can't help but ask, because of the work that you did, the quality of education today, particularly in the tertiary education level, is that what the plan was? Is that what you envisaged?
This is the Anamoa committee, Anamoa Mensa committee. And you see, some things steal up on you if you don't take care. So suddenly there was an explosion and everybody wanted tertiary education, which is good because in the past, the international organizations we dealt with thought that people should have primary education. And I remember personalities like Dr. Okonjo-Iweala saying that she had got to where she had got to not because of primary education, but because of tertiary education. So the need to switch around our focus so that people could have tertiary education became preeminent. The problem with the educational system is that it's a social good. So some things can steal up on you. We used to have what they called, I forget what the name is now, it was the Ministry of Finance, but it was like they tried to match our human resource needs. Those days they called it manpower something. But I think at some point we abandoned it. Unfortunately, I think although we had adopted, I was a member of committees on campus, we had adopted 40–60% in favor of science because we were producing too many arts graduates. But when there was an explosion in the tertiary sector, I think too many of the private institutions went in the direction of the general arts system, which is not as expensive as science. And so I believe that's been part of the difficulties we've had, that we have so many people with qualifications in the arts, and there's a dearth of science-based disciplines.
Right.
But I think we'll get it right as we go on. So you wanted to know what I think of it. I think every generation produces what it is capable of producing. Our students are still doing very well when they go abroad to other universities in the same way as in my generation. So who am I to say that their quality is lower?
Right.
It may be different, but it may be dictated by the needs of the time. Now they have all these social media outlets to help. They have all these computers. In our day, we literally slept in the law library. In their day, they have most of the materials they need on their laptops. The difference is that we went to the library to read because there was no other option. They think they have the material on their laptops, so they know it. And I have been constantly cajoling them that having it in your room is not equivalent to having it in your head. So I think making the jump between having it ready on hand and reading it has been a challenge for some.
Right. Are you surprised that we have all these numbers wanting to read law?
No, not surprised. You see, all these bright young people, mostly young men, appearing on TV and throwing around theories. It's bound to make law look fascinating. It has always been, I must say, but now it's even more fascinating. In our parents' generation, and I suppose in mine, many people read law while working so that when they retired from the public service, they could have careers in law. But I think the young people now, their aims may be different. But I suspect that seeing all these jazzy looking young people throwing around big words and big ideas and so on has to have some attraction for young people. So maybe that's the reason.
How was it in your, well, maybe your time and years after? Because recently, when over 800 students were called to the bar, young lawyers were called to the bar, it made a huge buzz. People were posting lawyers and people were looking for lawyers who had graduated to post. How were you celebrating it in your days?
In our day,
call to the bar.
Life was very different. I think in my class, we may have been maybe a little over 60 called to the bar. We had a disturbed year, going to carry cocoa and all of that. I'm not complaining because I was able to have my second child in peace. So we were called to the bar in December. And in those days, the call was held in the Chief Justice's court, which is a much smaller court than the Supreme Court. I think it was remodeled and expanded and so on. But in those days, the call was in the court, in the courtroom, and it was a small event. You took it, you celebrated. I remember cooking for a few people. I loved to cook. These days, I don't cook anymore. But cooking was my hobby, really. And I took cookery for O-level. So I remember having a little dinner party for my friends and family who had come. But those days, it wasn't a big deal. Those days, it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
Social media has made a lot of difference to these things, these images and so on. In our day, I don't recall that there was anything like that.
Going back to the commissions that you served on, the National Reconciliation Commission, one of the memorable commissions. But do you think that the lessons have been learned?
Unfortunately not. The very fact that there was all this talk not too long ago about unconstitutional changes of power and the attraction to some young people and all of that. Let's have a coup. It was like, let's go on a picnic. They have no idea. I blame the authorities in some way because the report of the National Reconciliation Commission was put online. But those days, how many people had access to online material anyway? And the philosopher George Santayana has said so, that if you forget the past, you are condemned to repeat it. And many of the things happening, people suddenly jacking up their prices because of this exchange control and causing a lot of misery and all of these are 1983 reenacted, really. Ghanaians don't know enough about their history. And young people in Ghana don't know enough about their history. We've tried everything. So when I was very alarmed at even the kind of people encouraging unconstitutional changes of power. We've been there, and we know that nobody has a magic wand. And we know also that the press keeps quiet during unconstitutional changes because it is so dangerous to be in the press. You'll be whisked to prison before you know it. And so there's always a silence at the time when very terrible things are happening. And so people take that for the fact that those things didn't happen. And the National Reconciliation Commission report talks about all of those things. But who's reading it? So the number of people who have come to me since then and said, we are doing a PhD and we need help, National Reconciliation Commission report. I said, but it was online. They said, well, I went there and it's no longer there. Then I share what I downloaded from it, which somebody else shared with me because I couldn't find the copies later and so on. So we are making a dreadful mistake. We are making a dreadful mistake keeping our history from our children. It is not for nothing that in the Bible the Israelites are told, teach it to your children and to your children's children. Wear it around your neck, put it on your... Because human mind is so short-framed, let me put it that way. And sometimes the things one generation knows to the other generation is complete news. Imagine my surprise when I met a young graduate of University of Ghana who had graduated in political science and had never heard of the National Reconciliation Commission. I was shocked. But when I recovered from my shock, I said, but it's not her fault. It's not her fault. We are not learning from our history. It may be embarrassing, but we will repeat it unless we know the pitfalls and what happened and the human rights abuses and the fact that the kind of things people say, walk around, do, they couldn't have done without the protection of a constitution. As somebody once told me, even a bad constitution is better than nothing. You can run to the courts. When there is an unconstitutional change of government, where are you going to go? And anybody can do anything to you and get away with it. The number of Ghanaians who denounced others and who got into trouble because somebody had gone and reported that they had done something and nobody investigated and they were arrested. You'd be amazed. But as they say, you never know what you have until you have lost it.
Right.
So our young people don't know what they have.
In the book, you talk about people approaching you at social events, people who didn't appear formally before the commission
not
and telling
at all.
their stories.
Not at all. Sometimes you are at a party and they wouldn't even let you eat. I said, why don't you file a petition? They will think. But telling me about it at a party and stopping me from having my fun at my party will not change anything for you. Some people did not want any compensation, but they were afraid that it would give the impression they wanted compensation. And I said, no, we need to hear these stories. We need to catalog these stories. One of the biggest weapons of the human rights movement is documentation. Because when you document it, it's available. And because it is documented, there's less of a risk of it happening again without anybody catching the signs. But they will tell you all the sub-stories. I will listen, of course, but the imagery I always used, and I still use for some things, is that a football match is played in regulation time on a certain pitch, according to certain rules. If you don't go by it, never mind what a wonderful scorer you are. I'm sure there are many people who can score goals better than Messi, sitting on their own little pitches in their own places. But they don't get to be in the World Cup. And I'm sure the goals that the people who took the missed penalties failed to score, there were a few Ghanaians in their own living rooms scoring those goals. But they were not part of the match. So when a system is set up to do these things in us, it will always be untidy because the society sees itself in a mirror and the society doesn't like what it sees. So it's either in denial or angrily rejecting it as this is not us and so on. But look what happened when the cedi and dollar demonstration started happening. A drug I used to buy for about 56 cedis. Somebody looked me in the face and said it was 450 cedis. I still intend to go and see that young man. So we did all those things because there was a shortage. And look what happened. We even executed heads of state. We are suppressing all that information because it's embarrassing. But the result of it is that the next generation and the one after it will do it again because they don't know. They haven't lived in a situation where anybody can give you a certain look and then you know you are in trouble.
So how
do you know that there's a woman in this country whose 2 sons in the military were executed and she was prohibited from having a funeral? Do you know?
I didn't know that.
We've done all those things. All the things you read in books about other people during conflict, we've done them here.
There was an account of a woman who was about 8 months pregnant, who was beaten.
Yes.
Mercilessly.
Yes.
So she gave birth to a child.
We heard that petition in Kumasi. Yes. There was not a dry eye in the room. There wasn't a dry eye in the room because she was beaten on the stomach. And all she wanted was some assistance so the boy could get a job because he had learned to weave something. He had learned a trade, but nobody was giving him a chance. And that was what she wanted, you know, so that he could earn a living from the skill. And so there wasn't a dry eye in the room. We've done all those things before. But I'm afraid we are losing the lessons.
So how do young people express their frustrations? There are those who are calling for a new constitution. There are those who, for instance, you talk about the price situation. People were calling for the presidency to control prices, for instance. How do we express our frustration?
If you know a path that somebody trod and the result they got, when you are considering alternatives, you might not consider it. But if you think it is an answer, we thought so once, that people who had bought some things to sell at a certain price would automatically reduce it and sell it to us and make a loss. That doesn't happen in commerce. You see, what happened with the controlled price system was that people then had to take chits to go and get allocations. Did they use the allocations for themselves? No. They turned around and sold at 10 times the price. And it's human behavior. We should never think that Ghanaians are different from other people. We are not. So we will respond the same way that other people respond in scarcity. The people who can fashion alternatives surely must know where we've been before, what we've tried before, and see what is possible.
Right.
But if you sit in your home and determine that somebody ought to be forced to sell the thing at a certain price, you are going to have to do it so forcibly, aren't you? You are going to have to seize the goods and sell and whip people and get long queues when you have only 10 things to sell, and get people who themselves are trading on the black market to then enforce these queues. We've been there. We've been there, my goodness. If there's hell on earth, we've been there. Let me tell you a story if you have time. I was in the law school. I had 2 babies. I was going to take trotro from the area in front of UTC because we lived at North Kanishi. And then I came across this long queue at GB Olivant. Those days, you didn't even ask, what are they selling? The moment you saw a long queue, you joined. So I joined. 2 hours of sweat in the sun. 2 places before mine, we were told the goods had run out. They were selling peak milk, the container that we find on the shelves these days. They closed the gate, came back and told us, well, the peak milk is finished. but they have iron besteds if you are interested. Who buys iron besteds in place of milk? 2 hours wasted. And all this time, the soldiers were there controlling the queues with whips and so on. We've been there. Let's not go there.
Let's talk about Ayawaso, West Wuogon. That commission you also sat on. Are you satisfied with the level of implementation of the team's work and effort?
Some of the recommendations were bound to be implemented off the public eye. So I don't know what was implemented away from the public eye.
Right.
I can't say I'm satisfied, but I have more pain with the lack of implementation of the National Reconciliation Commission report. Because if we had done that, perhaps Ayawaso would not have happened. We should also understand when we are in power that you do not weaponize national security, because you will not always be in power. You see, you will not always be in power. So when you start a new unit and you leave power and another group takes over, they may use it in a way that you did not intend. All of these are part of the lessons of nation building. And I'm certain that those who ought to have learned something have learned. But not everything can be done in the public eye. So I hope that those recommendations that required some reform and so on of the security.
And that's Mama V's interaction with Professor Justice Henrietta Mensa-Bonsu. You can catch the full thing on our YouTube page. It's uploaded there for your viewing. So it's now time to get interactive with you. The number to call 0302-211-691, 0302-211-691. We'd love to hear what you have to say. How will you rate the worst and best ministers of this year? And who will they be? Call us and let us know. We've also been discussing the reversal of the discount policy by the Ghana Revenue Authority. Some of you called in earlier to share your thoughts with us. And if you had any question to ask or any suggestion to make that was not made, this is the opportunity for you to do so. While I wait for your call, let me just inform you that the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform the public that persons wishing to apply for tax clearance certificates should do so online or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit the taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that's the TIN, of the institution or organization requesting the certificate so that they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. Kindly contact GRA's toll-free 0800 900 110 or via these WhatsApp numbers 055-299-0000 or 020-063-1664 or send an email for further inquiries. The Ghana Revenue Authority also wishes to inform you, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that's VAT, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system of VAT, referred to as EVAT. This involves integrating the invoicing systems of VAT-registered taxpayers to the Commissioner General's invoicing system. Taxpayers who do not have an invoicing system will be required to issue invoices using GRA's certified invoicing system at no cost. VAT-registered taxpayers are to note that refusal to integrate their invoicing systems with that of the Commissioner General's attracts sanctions. Kindly to contact GRA's toll-free 0800 900 110 or via these WhatsApp numbers 055-299-0000 or 020-063-1664. Send an email for further enquiries. Do we have a caller on the line? Hello, Richard. Good morning to you. What are your thoughts? Share them with us.
Good morning, Bernice. Hope you are doing well.
Yes, I am. Thanks for asking. Hope you are too.
All right. Unfortunately, your producer told me that I can only comment on the minister's performance, that I should rate the ministers.
Please go ahead. You can do that. And then if there's time, I'll let you in on any other thing you want to talk about.
All right, thank you for that. Yes, I want to rate the finance minister, and I'll rate him for 0/10. I'll give the finance minister 0/10, looking at the economy in which we find ourselves now.
Right. And who's your best performing minister?
My best? Do I have anyone? I don't think so for now. I don't
All
think
right.
I have any
Okay.
minister.
So in 30 seconds, just let us know what else you wanted to talk about quickly, please.
All right. My frustration is about the 80 million Ghanaian citizens devoted for the National Cathedral. That is my frustration.
But you know, Parliament has rejected that, right?
Of course, Bernice, but and that's great news. But this Parliament, like it has been said before, we don't trust them. I know they will go back and then do something else. We are in this country. We know what happened with the e-levy. So, yes, they have rejected it, but I don't really trust what they have done. I only pray that 2023 we don't hear different stories.
Right.
The frustration in this country now is so much. I just listened to the professor's interview, and she's giving us a stunt warning about what happened in the past. And I hope our president listens to this interview, because there are certain things going on that could take us to the past, and we hope it doesn't happen.
Right, Richard. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. You can also share your thoughts with us this morning. We are asking you for 2022, who is your best and worst performing minister? And also this morning we've been discussing the reversal of the GRA's discount policy on the importation of goods and vehicles. We had quite an education. If you didn't watch that particular segment of the show, please do catch up on YouTube or our Facebook page, JoyNews on TV. Do we have another caller? Hello, Abdul Ganiu, let's hear you.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers. This is Abdul Ganiu calling you from Mankarabo, under Savannah region. I think in 2022, we have our ministers, we have our CEOs. I think the best minister in 2022 is Honorable Lawyer Abu-Baidoo, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. The things that this man has done within the few years that the president gave him the mandate to be a minister is amazing. We, as the young guys, we're supposed to praise him because the work that he has done a lot of work for the people of this country, especially Savannah region. I think what we have seen in 2022, we pray that we are going into 2023. We pray to Almighty Allah to let us see a lot of success within the 2023.
Right.
We will all thank God for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abdul. We'll have to take more callers, but thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. If you also have a say or have something to say, please call us 0302-211-691. Who will be our last caller on the AM show for 2022? Samson.
Yeah, good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning to you. Let's hear you, Samson.
Yeah. In fact, it's a wonderful show, but I must say that our ministers are not performing to our expectations. In fact, the worst has to be the finance minister.
And who is your best?
It's that situation that we don't even know what to do.
And who is your best?
Even before this, the 1.5 threshold was removed, they were not respecting the 100%, the 100 Ghana cedi threshold, because even if you transfer to cedi, you are being charged 11. And this is very, very bad. And now, look at what you are bringing again. In fact, the whole system, everything, we are all suffering. So please, for me, none of the ministers is performing. The worst is the finance minister. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Samson.
If you say it's working for free, we don't want it. It's free gift. It should just go. We are tired of free.
Thank you very much, Samson, for calling us. And that will be our show for today and our last show for 2022. What a year it has been. From Benjamin, myself, my producers, Derek Okosam, Kingsley, the entire team, directors. We say a very big thank you for being part of our 2022. We trust that 2023 will be kind to us, and we will meet again, God willing, on the 2nd of January. Do take care of yourself. Please take it easy on yourself. Don't drink and drive. We need you alive. And also remember to have fun in moderation. Take care. Up next is News Desk. I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, and it's goodbye from me in the year of 2022.